What is up, everybody? Ethan Newberry and
Kim Tashima
I
Newberry.
caught you off guard. You even used my last name in that introduction. First time as a married couple we've done this show together. Welcome everybody to the live show, Ginger Runner Live, episode number 6. Actually, don't remember what episode it is. 65. My brain is mush, and that's actually a large portion. Actually, all we're talking about today is why it's mush. That is the Quicksilver 100k, which was the race that I competed in this last weekend, and Kim was crew and pacing me at, including my friend Andrew, who was also there filming. We're going to be talking all about the race today and kind of what went down on the trails in Los Gatos, California. Way to just give it all away. Way to just spoil it. So that's what we're covering on today's show. Welcome, everyone. If you're watching live, thank you. And this is going to be fun. So welcome, everyone, to Ginger Runner Live, episode number 65. Ginger Runner. Yay! What is up, everybody? Welcome to the show. Very, very excited to talk about the race this weekend. But first, I've been holding off for the last couple weeks on drinking beer until the race. And now that the race is done, I get to pop open a Ballast Point Sculpin, which is one of my favorites. And this is the grapefruit. Very rare, hard to find in the cans. It is delicious. So
We're into mine.
Well, yeah, you're ahead of the game. And of course, my fresh, brand new Quicksilver 100k pint glass. So this is going to be a nice little combo. Oh, that smells awesome.
I'm already just going to jump into the chat room just for one quick second.
Mm-hmm.
Zev says, Ethan finally got Kim a chair. Did you get me a chair?
Nope.
What am I putting on?
This is just kind of how married life is it's making compromises, right? Compromising. I'm in a chair. Kim is sitting on a cooler. We're working on getting chairs, and we're still figuring out what we need in this house and stuff like that. So yeah, sorry, Kim has to sit on a cooler, but I think that's an upgrade because the cooler was our coffee table about a week ago. Our coffee table was the cooler, but now it's a chair. So rather than being like the source of where we eat and all that stuff, now it's just kind of where your butt sits.
Upgrade. It's making its rounds.
Upgrade. And I don't remember what you were. Oh, first of all, cheers.
Congrats to you.
Well, again, what's with the spoilers?
I just meant on opening the beer and pouring it in your glass.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate that. Love you.
Love you.
That's great. All right. Ooh, that is really good. It's all right. It's going to be a fun show. Had one sip of beer. That's all I've had. And so I can already tell it's going to be good. So Kim is going to be jumping in. As my brain is totally scattered, I'm going to try to replay this weekend. And Kim is going to be there to help support me in that and remind me of maybe things that I missed or maybe things that I said that I have forgotten about or blacked out. But she will also be in the chat room. So while I'm also watching the chat room, I think it's going to be Kim's eyes that are going to see most of the comments because my brain is just a little fried. It's just kind of what's going on. Before we get into the race description and what happened this weekend, just from my perspective, there's a couple things I want to say. First of all, is a thank you to everybody who has jumped on the pre-order for the cap, the Ginger Runner cap. I posted the video 2 Fridays ago. I wanted to leave the pre-order open long enough for people to grab one. Overwhelmed by the response, which is awesome. I'm doing the Home Alone face. That means it's good. Today it's open now, and I left it open because a couple people on Instagram were like, I never even knew this was happening. In my mind, I'm going, how? Come on. I feel like I've just been nonstop like, go get the hat. So it's going to stay open for just a couple more hours. I will close it tonight. If you have not gotten one, go grab one. So that's that. Thank you if you've already gotten one, and I cannot wait to just start producing them and then sending them out. I'm very, very excited about those. Huge congrats to guests of the show from episodes previous, Alicia Shea, Rob Krar, Zach Miller, Jameel Curry, Gary Robbins, all raced this weekend and did incredibly well. A lot of them are at Transvolcania. I know Gary was in Spain at Forget the name of the race, but it sounded terrible and awful.
Yeah.
I hope to talk to all of them in the coming weeks about those race experiences, get them on the show and kind of recap what happened, because these are all global races that I want to know more about as I look into racing overseas and, you know, adding things to my bucket list and stuff like that. So congratulations to all of them, and to all of you who perhaps also raced this weekend, any distance. If you got it done, big congrats. If you didn't, get after it and do it again and get it done. I know you will. You guys all challenge yourself that way. On that note, based off this weekend's race for me, all day on Saturday, my mind just kept going back to some of the guests that I've had on the show. And I like to bring guests on that inspire me, people who I follow on social media and am just like in awe of, whether it's on Strava or other sorts of social platforms. And honestly, when I'm out there trying to like move my body and my body's not moving and I have 20 miles to go or whatever, I can't help but think like some of these elites are going through the same thing, granted hours faster, but it's incredible, and it's incredibly inspiring. So for anyone who's finished any sort of races like a 50 miler or 100K, 100 miler or beyond, you blow my mind. You blow my mind. Anytime I finish an ultra, it's like, I can't imagine doing that again, or I can't imagine going further, longer, any of that kind of stuff. And it's super humbling. And the Quicksilver 100K this weekend was very humbling. And it just reminds me that there are people that are doing a lot harder and a lot further and a lot more difficult distances. So y'all inspire me, and only to get stronger and get better and to get back out there. I can tell you during the race, I did not want to ever get back out there, but
I think he said to me at one point, "Oh, is this gonna be a spoiler?"
Well, maybe.
Okay.
And
I think he said to me at one point, "Hi."
Hi. That's all I said. And by the way, I know that I talk louder than Kim, so I'm going to try to like not talk over her, because I talk very loud.
Your voice projects.
My voice projects directly into the microphone, which is right here in front of our
Mine
faces.
goes around.
And Kim's is just a nice little soft way. It just goes around.
Tons of fun people in the chat room already.
Yeah?
Our
Okay.
good friends Carrie and Matt are in there.
Hey, Rain Shadow
Guillaume is
running.
in there.
Guillaume, Calmet.
And tons of our Monday regulars are in there. Raul, John, Clope. Who else is in there? Sydney, Devin.
Maya Longlegs is in there.
That's me.
Oh.
We have somebody who was from the Bull Run 8 station in there.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to also, I'm going to get into the description, but I have to thank the Quicksilver Running Club. It's a big club in the San Jose, Los Gatos. I actually don't know how far it spreads out, but it's a big running club in that area. Basically, all the 8 stations were staffed by Quicksilver volunteers, Quicksilver Running Club volunteers. They were throughout the course. There were course marshals that were directing people. The flagging the day before was done by a lot of the running club members. I have to thank them for being out there and doing such a bang-up job. I have to thank Greg, Rajiv, John. It's either Rajiv or Rajiv. I only met him once at the bib pickup.
Right.
And I don't want to mispronounce it. So those of you who are club members watching, please correct me. But all of those guys and the club and everyone that was out there running and volunteering and stuff like that was really, really awesome. And the post-race barbecue was delicious. Managed to grab ourselves some of the portobello mushroom burgers before those were gone, and devoured them fairly quickly, as well as some beer and some local libations. It was great. So big thank you to all you guys. Let's do it. People want to talk about it. I want to talk about it so I can try to relive it here with you guys on the live show. I have some clips. These are unedited clips. So you're going to see basically every motion in the GoPro where I turn it on, flip it, look at it, turn around, do the other thing. You're going to kind of see the back end unedited version before I actually put it into polished film, which I am doing for this because this was a big deal for me this year. It's all build up for the Cascade Crest 100, and this was one of the biggest steps for me mentally, and I want to tell that story as best as possible. So that's going to happen hopefully in the coming weeks. There's a couple of things I need to release before that, but I want to make sure I give it its due diligence and really post it. So when that drops, and I want you guys to share it and watch it and hopefully enjoy it. Okay, where should I start? Beginning?
Yeah, let's start. There's been a couple people asking kind of why you chose Quicksilver, so maybe that's a good way to kind of start to
Great.
get into the.
I know this is always I'm always asking people who I have on the show, like, let's start at the beginning, like training and stuff. Yeah, let's start with Quicksilver 100k and why I chose this race. So there's a number of 100Ks that are so Western States 100 is obviously one like the original 100-mile race. It has all this cloud. It's very publicized. Having been there last year, having known about it 4 years, and never ever thinking I could possibly get into it or complete something even remotely close to it, it's just been on that list of dreams. Like, it would be amazing to race there. I know that there are other 100-mile races that are also epically beautiful and have amazing volunteers and followings and stuff like that. But there's just something about there's something about Western States. To get into Western States, you have to do a couple of things. You either have to win a spot in the Montreal Ultra Cup race, get like top 2, which is the Gorge 100K film that follows that particular aspect of getting into Western States. The other way is by getting in through the lottery. I think there's maybe a couple other ways, but these are pretty much the most publicized ways. The other way is to get in through lottery. And the lottery system is really difficult to get into because so many people apply and so many few people are actually accepted in. The way you can actually put your name in the lottery is you have to complete one of their sanctioned races on their list of races that are qualifying. And then once you complete that in a certain number of hours, underneath a certain minimum, you are then eligible to put your name into the hat. In this case, 2 years ago, in 2013, I ran the Cuyamaca 100K. I have my race video. It's up on my YouTube channel. It's been up there for a couple of years. Go watch it. That was a very difficult race. It was my first 100K, first distance over 50 miles. And I completed it in 14 hours and what was it, 21 minutes?
Yes.
Yeah. 14 hours, 21 minutes and something seconds. It was a really tough day for me, really difficult race. All sorts of aspects to it just tore me apart. It's all in the film. When I finished it, I was like, oh my God, I did it. 14 hours and 21 minutes. Western States required at that time a 50-mile race to be completed. So they had this whole list of 50-mile races and 100K and 100-mile races. 2 weeks after I finished the Cuyamaca 100K, it was added to the Western States list of qualifying races. However, I was not eligible to apply because I had finished it 2 weeks prior. So it was in the next year's lottery races listed. Brain mush. Because Western States changed the 50-mile requirement to a 100K minimum requirement. So you had to complete 100K that was on their list. This is a long story. So unfortunately, I wasn't eligible to apply to Western States. And I didn't have enough year left to get into another race that would be a qualifier. Last year, what happened last year? I think I tried to get into Cuyamaca again and was unable to because it filled up.
Sold out.
It was sold out race, so I jumped onto the wait list, and unfortunately, the wait list, I was deep on the wait list. And so by the time the race actually rolled around, I was like number 3 on the wait list, and I was going to get into the race, but I had already just finished Squamish 50-50 and was about to run the New York Marathon. There was something in there that was like, I'm not ready to run 100K. My body is dead. I think it was right after Squamish 50-50 or right before it or something that just, I was like, I can't do it. I had to pull out of the wait list.
It would have put it right in between Squamish and New York.
It was terrible. Like
dead center.
My body, there's no way. I was barely able to finish New York. I mean, I couldn't imagine doing 100K in there. So I had to pull out, and I was just like, set that goal for next year. And that is what happened this year. It was between Miwok and Quicksilver with my injury in January, which took me out for a couple of months, and just my lack of training. I figured because Miwok 100K and Quicksilver 100K are both Western States qualifiers, but yet are separated by a week, I would take that extra week and add it to my training and jump into the Quicksilver race. Plus, I reached out to them, and they were super receptive to having me come make a film, and they were really gung-ho. They really wanted to showcase their terrain and the area, and it was a trail that I had never run before, a whole system of mountains I hadn't even thought had trails in them, to be totally honest, which is completely naive on my part. I had run in the Marin Headlands many times with the North Face 50-miler and 50K, and it is so damn gorgeous, and I can't wait to get back up there. But this was a race I was like, I'm unfamiliar with this area. It looks beautiful. The race looks awesome. and there, you run through these mining towns, and there's a lot of history there. So I was totally into it, and a lot of the locals were like, "You got to come race this race. It's super awesome and tough." And that was the other thing. I really wanted to do a race that was tough to mentally prepare me for Cascade Crest. Long explanation. That is why I signed up for that.
Excellent.
Now let's talk about what's going on in the chat room. Anything?
No, I'm just pulling some questions
Okay.
out, and we can talk about it later.
Great.
I think let's
As stuff pops up,
get into kind of pre-race for you.
Yeah.
Building up.
Talk about training, because I think that plays a big integral part in Saturday's race. So because of the ankle injury in January, ankle gate, I had to take 2 months basically off of running completely. I was able to hike and able to really start running slowly into February, late February, but there was still a lot of pain and residual confidence issues running down hills and dealing with a grade 2 plus ankle sprain. I mean, it was nasty. And those of you who have had ankle sprains before know what it's like to have to come back from an injury like that. It's not just physical. There's a lot of mental stuff too. And I've kind of talked about it in other shows, but it really kind of reared that ugly head right during Gorge 50K. Orcas Island 50K I had to drop out of. I couldn't do it. Was able to film it, but barely able to make my way around the course. So Gorge 50K was going to be my big kind of like, let's see if this ankle can handle some long running on some interesting trails. And it managed to do just fine. I even rolled it a little bit and fell, and it was good and pretty solid. So that brought back some confidence. However, a 50K does not a 100K runner make. So I needed to really kind of amp up my mileage. I managed to throw in another 50K, the Leona Divide 50K. I have a film coming from that as well to kind of document that day. That was 2 weeks ago, and I really wanted it to kind of be my last long run before Quicksilver. But that didn't allow me to have enough base training. So my weekly mileage was hovering anywhere from like upper 30s to low 50s. There wasn't a week where I went over 60 miles. I just wasn't able to build up. And the last thing I wanted to do was build up too fast, try to get a big week of training in there and ruin everything by either fatiguing something, re-injuring something, make the common mistake that I have made in the past and other runners talk about making. So I needed to take my time and bring my mileage up as slowly as possible. And I knew I could try to gut it out at Quicksilver. So that was kind of my training. It was lackluster. There was some good climbing, like steep stuff, some moderately technical stuff, a couple 50K races in there. But overall, there wasn't the big back-to-back training weekends, like a 30 plus a 20. There wasn't a week over 70 miles. There just wasn't that base.
I think you did the best you could do with the time that you were given.
I did all I could do with the time that I had.
Yeah.
There was no way I would have been able to do Miwok. I mean, even that 1 week difference still made such a difference because I was able to get a long week in there and do Leona Divide, which I think helped a lot to be able to get some of the mileage in there. Ideally, I would have liked to have done a 50-mile race before the 100K, because the last time I'd ran that distance was North Face at the beginning of December. And that is not just for the distance, but for the confidence, because I think when you run a distance like that, and it totally will knock you on your ass, that at least builds up the confidence of going, well, I could do that. I can do another 12 miles. I know how to pace myself for the 50-mile and then struggle through the 12 or whatever. In this case, I had forgotten what it's like to run 100K because it was 2 years ago. And the only real long distance I'd had up to this point was about a 31, 32-mile run at either Gorge or Leona. So that it's double that distance and so much more elevation. So I just was like mentally not there and trained not really there. Okay, so that's the long pre-race. We have an hour to fill, so might as well start talking about the race now.
Yes.
So we traveled up Thursday. We wanted to make sure that we got up there the day before Friday, because Friday I was going to go out with Greg, one of the guys that's part of the Quicksilver running crew, and actually helped design the course and was course marking all day Friday. I wanted to get out there with him so I could film, so I could see the course, so I could help him mark. So my good friend Andrew joined me, and we went out and filmed some stuff, and I got my first look at the course. And I got terrified because the first thing he mentioned was, the first 2.5 miles or something, I mean, it's straight uphill. You've been to Western States, right? And I was like, yeah. He goes, it's basically like the escarpment. It's like that first climb out of out of Squaw. I was like, oh man, I remember that first climb out of Squaw last year, just doing it for fun. And it's stupid. It's steep. It's like the worst way to start a race because you're just grinding up for an hour or whatever, however long it takes you. If you're an elite, it takes you 10 minutes. If you're a mid packer, then it's taking an hour. So I knew that was gonna. As soon as I started stepping onto the Quicksilver Trail, I was like, oh my god, this is gonna be awful. Luckily, it's all in the dark, so you can't see just how much more you have to climb.
How terrible it is.
Just how terrible it is. So in my mind at this point, and hearing stories from people running the 100K last year, it was a lot of nerves and a lot of talking myself into just making it an adventure and not trying to race it, not getting caught up in trying to best your time or do anything. I was there for two reasons. One, to finish it and get that confidence, and two, to hopefully get a Western States qualifying time.
Right.
That was it. That is why I traveled all the way up there. So it was like Friday was really just kind of telling myself that not to get caught up in the race, not to push those climbs too hard, to save yourself for the last 50K. So that's what I did. I didn't have, shoot.
What do you need?
I'm trying to remember where I even put it. It was my elevation chart, which might be on the kitchen table, that I drew in my pocket because I don't have the screen cap of the actual elevation chart. Yeah, see if you can find it.
Okay.
It's on the back of that sheet there.
It is not.
Where are the rest of those pieces of paper? You have those?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead and grab it. So the night before this race, and I've done this for a couple other races, but this was the first time for a race of this scope that I really wanted to have an elevation chart. And I'll kind of show you what I do when I prepare for a race. Perfect. Where I'm really nervous. So I draw one of these. Let's make sure you can see that. I draw the elevation profile. I mark where the aid stations are. I mark at what mile the aid stations are. And I mark the major climbs, how many miles those climbs are, and how many feet of elevation those miles accumulate. In my mind, this helps me do a couple of things. It helps me when I hit a climb, I can look at this and go, this climb is 3 miles long and I gain 1,200 feet. I know that's about 400 feet average per mile. I know that on any given course, that can change, every 100 feet or so. But it allows me to kind of have this mental, it compartmentalizes the hills for me and makes them easier to digest rather than looking at this going, I have 13,500 feet of elevation over the course of this race. So I'll show that to you guys again. It's all hand drawn. You can do computer versions. I know that they have that company that does the race tats, but obviously this race didn't have that. So I just kind of chopped it up into little sections. It's digestible that way. Mm-hmm. So this is what I did the night before. And it actually kind of helps me relax a little bit and just worry about what comes when it comes. It also allows me to, once you finish one climb, I know I had 7 climbs this day that I was worried about. So I was able to kind of go, you only have 6 climbs left. You only have 5 climbs left. You have 4 climbs left. So that pretty much helped me the night before. So did eating lots of pasta and having a beer. All right. So come race morning. Might as well start getting into the race here.
Yep.
Had to wake up pretty early. The race starts at 4:30 a.m. I believe last year it started at 4 a.m., which seems to be kind of a typical 100K race start time. But 4:30 a.m., I believe they had to move it for some reason. Totally fine. That extra half hour sleep, I'm all for it. Not that it makes a difference at 2 a.m. when you have to wake up. So waking up at 2:30 in the morning was fine. I got a little bit of sleep. I got a couple hours of sleep. Kim, I don't think you did.
No, I don't usually.
Andrew did.
Yes.
Andrew definitely got some sleep. So we woke up as bright-eyed and bushy-tailed as possible, rolled out to the start line, which is at Hacienda, the Hacienda entrance to the Quicksilver Park.
Yes.
And I just realized the history of why it's called Quicksilver and stuff like that. I can cover that later. I was actually going to cover that in the film too. So talk a lot about why it's called the Quicksilver 100K. So at the start line, I believe there's 190 people or 197 people that started, I think is what the number was. Correct me if I'm wrong. We gather at the start line and it's, the weather is perfect. It's chilly, but not super cold where you have to bundle up. I'm in a t-shirt. anticipating that the weather was going to be warmer throughout the day. It was a major concern leading up to the race. I was constantly told that the area gets very hot, 85, 95 degrees, and it's a lot of exposure, especially the last half of the race. You're exposed for maybe 70 or 80% of it out to the elements of the sun. So even if it's remotely hot, it feels exponentially hot. So waking up that morning and feeling the chill and seeing the layer of fog and the clouds was such a relief.
Big relief.
Big relief. Because I knew that even if it did get hot, it would be later in the day.
Right.
Probably closer to 12 or 1 when the fog actually burns off. So the first part of the race is a climb. The first 2.5 miles, even just by looking at this, the first 2.5 to 3 miles is a 1,200-foot climb. So it's actually really comparable to the escarpment at Western States, which is, I think, about the same. It's up a fire road. You kind of loop back and forth. They have you do a couple of fun little out and back type things, or you're going up a little scramble. You go around an abandoned building that's completely dilapidated. You run back onto the course. There's great course marshals out there. I believe they're also family members to a lot of the Quicksilver Running Club who are just out there guiding people and telling them where to run. We were also told before the race to try to stay in groups because there was a mountain lion on the loose that had not been collared yet and was known to be not aggressive, but it was a young mountain lion that was doing stare downs with rangers. So the type of behavior that is not good, where they would approach a human, make eye contact with a human, and not be scared off by a human. So that had happened, I believe, a couple days earlier in the park, and they actually closed the park, and the race wasn't even going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, there was signs posted everywhere.
Everywhere. Watch out, mountain lion. But luckily, they had put out, I think park rangers sent out crews with dogs to try to sniff out the new cougar so they could mark it, but they weren't able to find it. They just assumed that it moved on, so they reopened the park to the public, and the race was allowed to continue. We were still given the warning, stay in groups, so there's not an individual person that the kitty can come and enjoy. So we were kind of doing that. It was really clumped up into different packs. I found myself falling back pretty quick. A lot of people went out from the start running up that first climb, and in my mind I'm going, hold back. You have a lot of race left. There's no point in running this. But it was so hard not to get caught up into it because my legs at that point were like ready to climb. They were ready to run and kind of ready to do this thing. But once you get up to the top and you kind of start going down the backside, you're in this fog. The first thing that I really was taken back by, even like right after the first aid station, was the grade of the climbs and the descents. There was very little flat running at all. It was down or up, and a majority of the hills were pretty steep. And I put that lightly. I would say 60% to 70% of the climbs were decent, like pretty good climbs. And then the other 40% were awful, monster, steep, real shitty grade, where you are just completely dialed down to a power climb and a really slow grind. So every time we hit one of those climbs, I just kind of took it down a notch and just focused on walking up, just doing as best as I can walking up. I think I want to show a clip. Let's see. I think this first clip is, this is kind of one of the first climbs. I'm looking at the clip and I know that the sun is already starting to rise, which means that this is before I get to 12.2, which is the first time I see you guys filming.
Right.
Which is at the top of Bald Mountain. So this is just climbing up to Bald Mountain. This is one of those first real steep climbs. Let's take a look at this. Again, unedited. I mean, I'm going to also say this, that we talked about this today. The footage will never do those hills justice as far as the steepness.
I was just going to say the only indication of how steep that was when you shot down to your feet and like you could see how, tough you were grinding it out there. It just is impossible to film.
Yeah, I'm trying to get
grade of the hill.
That's about a 23% grade on that one. That's kind of what I'm seeing on my Strava report. Let me confirm that. Oh, see, it's not even calculating because there's too big of gaps. It's close to 23%, I'm guessing. It's just nasty. So that's going up to Bald Mountain. For those of you who are locals, that will probably be very familiar to you. At Bald Mountain, and oh man, I forget the next clip. I think this is actually what I have. But at Bald Mountain, you have to do an out and back where you collect a card to prove that you went all the way out to the tip of Bald Mountain.
Yeah.
And brought it back. I think that's what this is. I might be jumping ahead. Let's just take a look. I believe it.
I think this is
maybe.
Very well.
As you can tell, No, I don't want to give that away. That's not what it was. That's something else. That's something in the future.
A couple people are suggesting you should have wore the kitty cat meow dripper. So if you did run into the cat, they would have thought you were just one of their own, you know?
Oh my God. So that's kind of the same philosophy of running with a bell. It's either going to deter an animal or it's a dinner bell.
Right.
So if I wear the meowdration,
the cat might try and mate with you.
I'm either going to have a mountain lion humping my back or eating my face. So it's one of the two.
It would look cute doing it.
It would look so cute. But neither of them sound appealing to me whatsoever. So that's kind of describing the earlier sections of the race. It was cool. The fog was nice and low. It was great, but I wasn't feeling 100%. I was feeling really tired. I think that was a lack of sleep, working the day before, filming and stuff like that. But also I was just trying to dial in nutrition. By the time I rolled into aid station 12.2, which was a smaller aid station, there wasn't a lot of food to eat, so I wasn't able to really take in a lot of calories. I kind of had to rely on what I had. I was like, at that point, I didn't want to stop and try to shove stuff into my mouth. I just kind of wanted to move on and try to get to the next aid station because I was so worried about the climbing at that point, and I knew that I had 2 aid stations to go before I got to the turnaround point where I get to see you guys.
Lexington, yeah.
Lexington. I knew I had to get to Kennedy aid station, and then Lexington was the turnaround.
Mm-hmm.
So my goal was to just get off Bald Mountain as soon as possible. And people had said, once you leave Bald Mountain, that's when it gets hard, which is true. Because once you get off Bald Mountain, you actually go down and then you climb again, another steep ass hill again, nonstop. So I just kind of worked my ass off and tried to kind of focus the energy away from the negatives. This is the part of the course where my mind started really just going really negative because it was so early. It was in the teens, 15 miles or so. And I just kept dwelling on the fact that I still had 50 miles to go and I was feeling bad. And it wasn't, my nutrition wasn't off. It wasn't like I was super nauseous or anything.
What was making you feel bad? What was
I think I was getting really disappointed that my legs weren't feeling fresh. I wasn't able to move really quick. It was all mental. 100% it was all mental looking back.
Right.
Because I wasn't feeling nauseous. The last 2 50Ks I'd run, I had major issues processing liquid. You can look at some of my race photos and I get this pooch in my belly where
a bit of a bloat.
It's a bit of a bloat where I'm taking in liquids because I'm doing mostly liquid nutrition, tailwind. And what happens is if it's too hot or if I'm not doing it properly, it just doesn't process quickly. So I might put too much liquid in over the course of an hour or something, and it just kind of accumulates and I get bloaty. I felt like that was happening here, but I didn't know why. I was peeing okay, but I just was getting frustrated. It was all mental stuff. And I wasn't really running with anybody at this point. People would come up behind me, be like, "Oh man, I love your videos," and that kind of stuff. And I would talk to them, and then they would either scream by me, or we were going on an out and back, so I wouldn't actually get to hang with them very long. And I was kind of I just want to hang with somebody.
Coming from a back of the packer type perspective, it's very easy to get in your own head early on in the game when you have people kind of going past you, and you're kind of well, what's wrong? What the hell's wrong with me? Why am I not, I've trained for this, So, yeah.
And what's great about this race is that there are all shapes, all sizes, and all of them are kicking ass. Yeah. And it's really inspiring. And the elite guys, you'd see them fly by and you go, oh man, hey, Jesse Haynes, for example, local SoCal guy, so fast, just flying. I saw him coming down the hill I just showed you. I saw him coming down as I was going up, I was like, oh, Jesse. And he's like, oh, Ethan. He's just flying by. I'm like, oh, cool. So I must be close to him, or, you know, within like 20 minutes or something. It was like an hour and a half, and this was mile 8 or something like that. It just shows how far ahead the elites are in this scenario. They're just flying. These hills are nothing to them. But all of us mid-packers are like, ugh, just grinding. So I was really mentally down. And I have to thank Jason Coop last week for giving me that old Val Kilmer roofied by an Appletini thing, because that definitely kept me going. I kept thinking about that and just going, that's not even funny anymore. It's not even funny. But I just couldn't stop thinking about it. And that kind of kept my mind off of other things. So I just kept pushing. And, you know, as you do, as long as you're not brought to a complete standstill, you just keep moving forward. A lot of the worries that I was having were things that hadn't happened yet. So I was worried about the big climb coming up, which I'm about to talk about. I was worried about the last 50K of the race, because I knew that as soon as you finish the first 50K, the second 50K is easier, but it's not, because you have heat and other elements. There's all these things I was thinking about that hadn't happened yet. And that's where I found myself digging my own hole.
Right.
Was because you can't focus on things that are out of your control or beyond your scope of time or your world at the moment. You kind of need to live in this little bubble that you're in and just focus on the positives that are going on. You're climbing. You're moving forward. You're running whenever you can. You're running the downhills. Your knees don't hurt yet. Your quads feel great. Like, you got to embrace those things.
And I think this kind of, you know, goes back to your elevation chart you were showing. It's about like breaking it down into like smaller, more doable chunks.
I had it written on paper. I wasn't doing it mentally.
Right.
And that's...
So it's like one of those things that, you know, for me, I'm usually like aid station to aid station, and that's what I'm focusing on.
Yeah.
But a lot of times it's just so hard to get into that proper mindset.
And, you know, there was a couple of guys that I actually heard running that first climb up at the very beginning of the race. And the guy was just going, this is how I race. I only race aid station to aid station. I know that the first one is, you know, 6.7 miles. So I'm just getting to that. And then I'll cut up the next one and figure out how I can get to that in that certain amount of time. And in my mind, I'm going, well, yeah, that seems so easy. But you do know you have 54 miles more after you get to that first aid station. So you kind of want to plan for that. So there's different mindsets that you can take up. I did this the night before, this little map, hoping it would help me. I guarantee you it did, because every time I pull it out of my pocket, it, one, took my mind out of what was happening right now and just kind of went, oh, you're in the middle of this climb. You only have this much to go. The next aid station's at blank mile, and you'll be just fine getting there. And then there's some roll, you know, it would help me kind of mathematically get out of what my like negative mindset and kind of get into the how can I break it down, what's happening right now sort of mindset. And it gave me like little mini goals. So this was like a constant reminder, though I should have been more diligent with the bigger picture of why that is important. All learning experiences. Every ultra is a learning experience, right? So get to the second aid station, move beyond that. That's Bald Mountain. The next big climb is up to Lexington. As soon as I roll into Lexington, I think my mood had improved a lot, because I knew as soon as you get to, Kennedy. As soon as you get into Kennedy aid station, which is mile 19.4. 19.4. So once you get to mile 19.4, you have a 5.1 mile bomber riding down to Lexington aid station, which is the furthest point from the start finish line and your turnaround where you start coming back up. So I knew once I got to Kennedy that I have a downhill, and it would be such a nice relief to take an hour, or, you know, however long it would take me to get down there, because it's steep, to just kind of like relax, chill, and enjoy the views. And Kennedy aid station, the guys and gals there were awesome. As soon as I run up, you know, one guy's like, Ethan, oh, it's so good to see you. You're kicking ass, you know, kicking my bottles and doing all that kind of stuff. And they're super positive and cheering, and it was great. So I left that aid station, and I knew you come back up to that aid station. So the guy's like, we'll see you in a little bit. And I'm like, yeah, I'll be back up in a couple hours. And that kind of helps. It helps to know I get to see these people again. I may not know them beyond today or this, you know, couple hour period, but at least I made like this split second friendship with somebody that I know I'm going to get to see in a couple of hours. And that could really help.
And a lot of times the volunteers are so awesome that they'll kind of remember you for when you come back to the same spot. And it's almost like seeing a friend or a family member. It's that little kick of energy that you need, right?
So Kim and Andrew, they couldn't be at that aid station because it's a trek. And I don't think there was crew access at all. So having those volunteers there that are being that positive and helping you kind of like look forward to something further down the road, especially after the big climb, it was really positive. So I left that aid station, had, you know, all the bottles were refilled, was feeling actually really good. So I went that, I think it's 5.1 miles with, let's look at my little chart, a shit ton of descent. It's about 2,500 feet of descent. You go all the way down. A little bit, yeah, about that.
5.4 miles to Lexington.
Yeah, 5.4 miles to Lexington, all downhill. So it was great. Not really able to bomb it because it's pretty steep. And I wanted to make sure that I preserved some of my quads and my knees because there were some serious bombers coming up, which I knew about. So I kind of tried to preserve some of the legs. I think those are some of my faster splits from the day. They aren't terribly fast, but for the rest of the day, you'll see that everything just goes downhill. Not, I mean, like literally and figuratively.
When we saw you at Lexington, you came in looking pretty good.
Yeah.
And you came in ahead of your expected arrival time as well at that point.
So what Kim's reading from is this right here. I'm not going to show you everything because it's just a lot of like gobbledygook text and stuff. The night before the race, we kind of went through based off of my Cuyamaca race, based off of what I expected to be able to do these smaller section splits in a certain amount of time. So by the time I rolled into Lexington, which is the furthest point, mile 25.4, 24.8, I just assumed mile 25.
Yeah.
So by the time I get to mile 25, I knew that I needed to be there in a certain amount of time. I think I have it at.
We were expecting you at
9:30 a.m.
Yeah. So 3.5 hours.
5 hours.
Sorry, right.
Yeah, 5 hours.
I think you started at 6 for some reason.
No. So I'd roll into mile 25 at 5 hours accumulated at 9:30 a.m. That was my goal. I rolled in at, it says 9:25.
Yeah.
Okay, so I rolled in about 5 minutes early. That's fine. That could have also been because I went through the first couple aid stations faster than maybe I anticipated. I wanted to make sure I took my time at aid stations to eat, get real food in, and not worry about rushing.
And this was really the first place that we could crew you at.
Yes.
So it's the first place I had all your stuff with
Yes.
me.
So you come down this big bomber, you run along a road section for a little bit. I saw my crew. It was great to kind of stop and touch base with them, let them know, you know, everything's going pretty good. I have this huge climb ahead of me. It's called Dog Meat. It's a 6.1 mile section. You climb back up 2,500 feet. I believe it's a little bit more than that. For most of the way, it's steep. It does this wonderful thing of like gradually going like this, getting steep, flattening, steep, flattening, steeper, flattening, steep. It just jumps into giant steep chunks. I posted that photo on Instagram this weekend. It does not do it justice, but once you get up to the top, you look down, you just see this single track that just goes down forever. So at Lexington, when I saw them, calorie-wise, I took in a couple boiled potatoes. I also drank an Ensure, which is something I did during the Squamish 50 miler. During the 50-50, during the 50 miler at mile 33, I took an Ensure. So it has some protein in there. It's super easy to drink because it tastes like chocolate milk, but also has tons of vitamins and other things that I might have been missing or depleted from. I just knew I wanted to put something in my body that like my body could feed off of that would help rejuvenate muscles and stuff like that. And it tasted so good. It was nice and cold.
It sure's worked out well for you.
Yeah, it was 210 calories. So I knew even if I couldn't take anything in additionally, it would last me at least an hour. So it was great. And at that point, it was getting a little warm. So I kind of rinsed off and iced up a little bit, put ice in my bottles, and left. So this is the big section that I was worried about all day. If you look at my elevation profile, that big V right there, the bottom of the V is Lexington. And then, well, it's opposite for me, but to the right there, once you get up here, that is back up to Kennedy. So it's one long, steep climb, 2,500 feet.
That was also the second longest mileage between aid stations of the day, I think. If I'm doing the math right.
Well, so you can't even go off distance. I realized this during Dog Meat. It's called Dog Meat because it just tears you up. Just because a distance between aid stations is 6 miles, you can never assume it's going to take an hour. In this case, since it's 6.1 miles up, I knew this section would take me maybe 2 hours. I assumed because it's so steep and based off of my times on a local mountain called Mount Wilson, which is very similar, it has a little bit less elevation than that. that my miles there range anywhere from 15 to 20-minute miles because you're hiking. You really, some guys run. I'm not at that level yet. So I knew that it would take me a certain time. So I guesstimated a 20-minute mile. I would just think like a 2-hour climb up. So I left the aid station with enough calories to get me that 2 hours back up to Kennedy Aid Station. This is a clip just near the top of dog meat. Very nice. As you can tell, I'm suffering, and that is because dog meat. This is very steep, very tough, absolutely awesome. Can't wait to get to the top and be done with it, but no joke. That's how nuts it is. Wow. I actually couldn't hear any audio from that. So I have a feeling you just heard like, yeah.
That looks terrible.
And, I mean, the camera doesn't do it justice.
But it still looks terrible.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. And, it would kind of mellow out. You'd be like, okay, I can do this. I can actually run a little bit. And then you'd come into a flat part and you'd see people climbing up above and you'd go, oh, this is just a tiny little respite before it gets really, really bad. So got to the top of that and was so thankful to be at the top. And you could see his feet there. I was climbing with a guy named Greg. Super nice. A guy, he had done it the year before. He was telling me that this is his lunch route. Like he would do this on his lunch break, is do this little loop where he'd go up dog meat and come back down the other side. And he's like, yeah, this is what I would do every day for lunch. And I was like, oh, so this, we're at the top. And he's like, well, no, we still have the Kennedy rollers left. And I was like, oh, the Kennedy rollers. And so what happens at the top of dog meat, you take a right. And I'm thinking rollers, like in Southern California, you have these beautiful like rolling hills, or even closer to Lake Sonoma or something.
Rollers always sound so nice.
Yeah, they sound great. Oh, you can flip on some rollerblades and coast down and skate up. Apparently, rollers is another word for spikes in geography. It's just, you would get to the bottom of one and you'd have to jump, like basically climb slowly up to another one and go straight down. And that was just seemed never ending. And I don't think I have, no, I don't have a clip from that. That'll be in the final film. So that was brutal. The Kennedy rollers was brutal, just never ending. So that mentally just kind of tore me apart. Just knowing that those are the climbs, and I hadn't even gotten back to the Kennedy Aid Station. Right before I got to the Kennedy Aid Station, here's like kind of putting everything into perspective. The Cuyamaca 100k was my first 100k 2 years ago. It was very difficult for me at the time, and it's a very difficult period. That had, I don't know the exact figures. Someone's going to have to, actually, you know what? I want to look it up because I don't want to mess this up. Let me look real quick on Strava. I just want to get the total, my activities, the total elevation on that one. Let's see, Cuyamaca, pretty quick, 8,000 feet. So my Strava says the Cuyamaca 100k was 8,000 feet of elevation total for the 100k, for all 62 miles. By the time I got to the top of the Kennedy rollers, not even back to the Kennedy Aid Station at mile 31, so not even before the 50k mark, I was over 8,000 feet of elevation. I think on that video clip I said something like 7,000 or 7,500. I was at 8,200 or 300 feet elevation even before the 50k. So that kind of puts this in perspective compared to the Cuyamaca 100k. I still had half the race left and another 5,300 something feet of elevation to go. Couldn't believe it. Scared the crap out of me because I knew you have another 31 miles to go and a lot of elevation. How are you going to be able to handle this? So we roll into the aid station, and again, we get to see these cool volunteers that were there, very welcoming, got to replenish everything, took a lot of ice because now the sun was out, it was getting warm, took the calories necessary to kind of get out of there as quickly as possible and move towards the next aid station, which is back to Hicks, right?
Hicks, yeah, second round at Hicks.
But I knew I was going to see you guys at Hicks.
Yes.
So after that, there's definitely some back downhill. In fact, there's some pretty steep downhills all the way to the next aid station, which is at mile 35.8. And I knew once I got to that aid station, I would see Kim and Andrew again. I'd be able to refill, kind of recompress, and know that the hardest part of the race was done. The first half was done. And I am back into the Quicksilver Park to run my second 50K. So the second 50K kind of stays within the Quicksilver Park. I believe it's the same course that the Quicksilver 50K runs, essentially. But hours after most of those runners had already run through the course. So that was it. Get back to Hicks, see Kim and Andrew. I managed to refill my bottles, head out again. Have a bit of a low point here. I feel like the calories were fine, but just mentally drained because so much had happened already in the race, and I just wasn't really mentally prepared to like take on everything that was happening after this.
When we saw you at Hicks, you were definitely
A little delirious.
less thrilled about everything.
Let's just say I snapped at Kim. I had a bottle.
Let's just say he wasn't the only husband snapping at his wife at that aid station. I saw 2 other.
Yeah, apparently. Ooh, oh no. Apparently, this aid station was notorious for having spouses snap at each other, or the runners snap at the significant others.
Yeah.
So yeah, I ended up, snapping at Kim. And the second I left the aid station, I went, "You fucking asshole! You are the one that left the aid station yelling at Kim to fill the bottle faster, and you're gonna regret it for the next 5 miles, 6 miles." Sure enough, the second I left, I was like, "You are such a dick." I knew I had some downhill. It was getting hot, so I was getting irritable.
It was very, to me, it was very hot at that point.
It's no excuse. So the next aid station is Hacienda, which is, oh boy.
Oh, got a big drip coming down.
I'm so sorry. That's going to be a big burp in a couple seconds. So going back down towards Hacienda, which is the start line, which has now been converted into an aid station. This is mile 39.
39.8.
And I had run this section of trail the day before with Andrew just for fun.
Right.
And it is essentially a straight bomb, a little technical, a little rocky, straight down into the parking lot aid station area. They moved the finish line. The finish line is now 3 miles later at a aid station called Mockingbird. So this is the first aid station that people can pick up their pacers if they so choose at mile 39. Kim and I had already talked about it, and I wanted to pick Kim up at mile 42, and it just seemed a better option for us because parking, you can park at the finish. I can pick her up at the finish, and then we can just come back to the car as opposed to having to take a shuttle or repark and do all that stuff. And I was fine running those 3 miles between 39 and 42 alone. I didn't necessarily need a pacer. So I rolled down into that aid station, just baked. At this point, it's so hot and not super hot. It's like 75, 80 degrees, but I'm feeling the heat at this point because you're kind of going down into a canyon. So it's just getting hotter as you go.
Just standing there watching the people run in, you could see the difference from what I had seen at the aid station, I guess 2 prior to that one. You can tell the heat was definitely wearing on people. There was a little bit of carnage happening, some medical stuff happening, and it was a big change from how we had seen people at the I guess 2 aid stations before.
Yeah, and this is also the first aid station I kind of encountered. They didn't have much ice, didn't have any ice water to put on our bodies. It was a bucket of water that the 50K users had really demolished, essentially, because the 50K had already run through here hours prior. So it was a lot of putting warm hot water on yourself. It was enough to cool you down and allow you to move forward, but it was really tough to leave that aid station knowing that even the race description has this description of the next section in it and talks about how even the best performers tend not to do this faster than 40 minutes. So it's 3 miles that is just going to take me a long time. And in my mind, I'm going, well, it's probably just another big climb and another descent. It was a lot worse than that.
Right.
This is a lot worse than that. And I have some of it on film. It won't do it justice. I'll include it in the final. It's just very steep. And you basically climb right up into exposure, sun exposure. So it just gets really hot. And every time you think you're at the top of this mountain, you go flat, you turn, and all of a sudden there's another steep climb and then an equally steep descent. So you're not really able to run the descent. You're kind of shuffling down. So it's just a really demanding section. I think it took me 50 minutes or 55 minutes or something to do the 3.1 miles. It was pretty sad.
CTAM79 says they should rename that hill the Marriage Tester. You know what the Marriage Tester was for us? Was Oregon Coast. That was my turn to do the snapping.
It's okay. I can run 8 hours plus with you for your 50K and deal with you, and you can deal with me at the 1-8 station. Okay. So this comes to the best part, though. Run down into Mockingbird, just destroyed. So Kim gets to basically pace me now. I'm wrecked. My legs are like, my knees are so sore. Those of you who have run these types of ultras before know that your knees, they hurt. It's not for anything other than like a lack of descending or lack of really like pounding them in training. So they end up just like getting really, really sore. And that's basically what happened as soon as I got into Mockingbird aid station. It was like my body had just given up. My body had already done its 100K. It had already traveled 9,500 or 10,000 feet of elevation. It was not ready to add a couple thousand more feet or finish the next 20 miles. It just was like, we're done. Mentally, it was like, I just want to get it done. I want to get it done. But my body was not there to follow suit.
I also feel like the Mockingbird aid station was like a mental screwing of the mind because it was a finish line.
Mm-hmm.
All the food was there. You could smell all the food. You could see the 50Kers like celebrating, and it felt like you were done.
Yeah.
We had a long ways to go.
Yeah. So you run into the finish line, but you have to leave because you still have 20 miles to go. Yeah. This aid station, Mockingbird, I believe it's put on by Brie Lambert. I think she's kind of the aid station captain.
Yeah.
Brie Lambert, who was featured in my Gorge 100K video, is awesome and super nice. I talked to her at Gorge about this race, and she's like, "You're gonna love it. It's gonna be, tough and challenging, but come to my aid station. And we'll take care of you." Sure enough, as soon as I roll in, they were just like on it, helping with food and getting me anything I needed to do, like anything I needed to eat. One of the volunteers even like was taking sponges and doing all the ice water on me and for me. It was great. I was like totally pampered. But you see this giant barbecue and people finishing the 50K, people drinking beer, there's tables and everyone's just like, well, this is, we're done. And as soon as I left, I saw Paul Terranova finish. He was second place in the 100K. So as he's finishing, I'm running out going, oh, come on. Like,
so we have
20 miles to go, and he's done. He is 20 miles ahead of me. That is what really blows my mind is I know I was not as fast as my body would allow me at some point in time based off of training. I know I could do 100K faster. Just know it. But I will never be able to go as fast as these guys. Absolutely floored by it. And it definitely kind of does this little mental thing with you where you just feel like, why even bother? Like, why even bother running these next 20 miles? I get to spend time with you, which is great. But people are already finishing. People are done. People are wrapping up their days and eating food, and they got their Western qualifying times. It's exhausting mentally, and you're already broken by that point. So it's so easy to just go, the light on the other side looks so great and warm.
I think
and
the
welcoming.
best thing to do at that point for mid packers is to think about the back of the packers.
And
that's
we did
great.
very soon after.
We talked about it a lot. And I think that's great.
We'll talk about that for sure in a second here. Western States 420 is back in the chat room weekly, every week.
Loves blazing.
loves his blazing. I guarantee you, I don't think I could go as fast as them blazing out. I don't think that's how that works. Okay, so this is the clip where I finally pick up Kim, and we can shove off. Look who I picked up. It's Kim.
It's me.
She's going to be pacing me now for the last 19, and it's not going to be easy. It gets really hilly again. I've been talking about it all day, but I am just so excited to have my love with me.
I'm with you.
Yeah, and we can tell stories and gossip and
And cuddle. It's so cold.
yeah, so cold. Perfect cuddling weather. We can talk about beer and the finish line party
Here.
and puppies and dreams. What a relationship. The best. The best. Time to run. I couldn't hear what was actually happening, so I have no idea if I cut off my own audio or whatever, but you'll see it in the final film. I don't even remember what kind of jokes we were cracking. I don't even know what we talked about. So I hope that clip was good, and I hope we didn't say anything inappropriate that I had to edit out. So sorry.
I hope you listened to these clips before you chose them.
No, not really. I was just like, oh yeah, this is that clip. Let's pull it in. I'm exhausted. Run JVH Run says, is there a new track coming with this video? Of course there is.
It's just gonna be me singing. I did that for the whole 20 miles. To remind you that you had bigger problems in your life.
It's true. It's true. There, there's a lot of people suffering around the world. You running 62 miles by choice, you don't have it that bad. So this is kind of when the race, it gets really interesting for me, because this is where you really learn about yourself. You learn about what you can do, what you push yourself to do.
Did we say something about puppies? There's been 2 people saying puppies and
puppies and cuddles. Puppies and cuddling in hot weather. Oh, we're adorable. Puppies and dreams. Great. I was glad I was at least in good spirits at that point. But this part of the course is also one of the most beautiful, because you start running this really lush single track, which reminded me a lot of some of the cool single track we get to run out here in Southern California. Some of the really, really good stuff with tree cover and like really lush green on either side and thin and, no bikes allowed, all running only. I was so bummed that I was so wrecked. And I mean, it's a shuffle at this point for me. There's no running. It's just shuffling, because like my legs were just dead.
A lot of you guys know that Ethan and I vary in paces pretty drastically, and I am usually unable to keep up with him.
But you were like, "Come on, Ethan! Like, let's push, Ethan!" I'm like, "I'm going as fast as I can." You don't get a lot in the clips. I realized that after watching them back. But Kim mentioned this, that I was making noise almost the entire 20 miles.
Yeah.
Just like struggling, because I haven't been in that much pain. Everything hurt. I have not been in that much pain for as long as I can remember. It just, everything fucking hurt. But what's crazy is this race just starts throwing weird curveballs at you. And this is all the race director's doing, and the course design and all that kind of stuff. So we knew that our next goal was to get to an aid station called Bull Run. Bull Run we would see twice. It's kind of this, we do this little mini lollipop. We travel up this single track. We get to Bull Run. We do this lollipop out to an aid station called Tina's Den, which is named after the mountain lion that lives in that park. Then you zoom back up. You hit a little out and back aid station. Then you get back to Bull Run. You head back down to the finish line. So we knew going up to Bull Run was going to be a challenge, because it's all uphill. And then we encountered this.
Designed this for evil.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, no, everything's looking good.
I would say not.
It's terrible. Terrible. What a joke. It's not very long, maybe a quarter of a mile, but you're essentially climbing up mine shaft remnants, boulders that were blown out of a mine shaft, and it's just that.
Everything was loose.
And it's not like, oh, it's a real steep climb and just do this thing. It's not even like Someone mentioned, I posted a photo of it earlier today. Someone mentioned, oh, it's like the rut in Montana. I've climbed mountains that have shale or loose scree on a really like sheer cliff face. This is different because these rocks weren't there for centuries. It's not like the mountain designed for these rocks to be here. These are man-created blowout rocks that are just like precariously stacked in giant quarter-mile mountains. You would step on one, it would move and then fall to the person behind you
so the option
and
was,
break their ankle.
Yeah, so the option for me was either wait long enough for the rocks to roll down and stop, or tail you close enough that I would be able to kind of just continue on your momentum.
There's a photographer that was sitting off to the side. We could hear his voice. I was like, what is that? Is that a racer stepping off to the side to like go to the bathroom or something?
I thought somebody pooping.
That's what I thought too. But then you kind of look over around as you kind of come up one of these bumps and you see this guy is taking pictures. And he's like, so you either need to put a gap between you or you need to be right on the person in front of you. Basically, he must have seen carnage all day long of people falling, getting crushed by boulders or something, because the advice was pretty spot on. As soon as you started making treadway, you know, you'd have to put a hand down and grab a boulder and then hope it didn't roll and all this kind of stuff. It was just like one of those, there was no reason to go up it.
Right.
Except the race director went, let's do that.
I'm going to send you guys up there.
Yeah, let's see what happens. Let's just put them up that thing. It's not really a trail. There's no trail. Let's just see what happens.
I swore a lot.
I loved it. I loved it because it was terrible. And it's not at all what you want to do at mile 44 or whatever it was.
I didn't love it but I didn't say anything. Because you know how I feel about like
scrambling,
falling, and like just continually falling and falling.
CTAM called it God's dandruff. This would be like man's version of God's dandruff. I think the scree and stuff like that is God's dandruff. That's funny. This was just, it was like nasty talus and all this kind of stuff. Kim and I recently did a local trail called Steep and Cheap, which is a 1,700 foot climb in less than a mile. It's 0.9 miles and 1,700 feet up. The last quarter mile of which is a full-on rock scramble. I mean, like dangerous scramble. When we did it, it was pretty dangerous, pretty bad.
It's like my biggest fear.
I had a panic attack on this one because I took a wrong turn. It was pretty bad. This was not as bad as that because there wasn't as much death exposure. You didn't have much risk of death,
right?
But there was risk of injury, and it was pretty nasty. So with that behind us, we were able to kind of focus on just moving forward. And Kim you were doing such a great job of just getting me to move forward. There was a long period of time where I couldn't talk. I couldn't talk, and it was all I could do to move forward. I just remember the trail being so beautiful and wanting to run it so bad, healthy and normal, without 48 or 49 miles under my feet at that point. Like, just I want to go back there and run these sections of trail because they're so beautiful. And honestly, my biggest gripe with this course is that some of the most beautiful trails happen so late in the race, you don't get a chance to really enjoy them because you're so fried. I can't imagine though doing some of those big climbs later in the race because you'd be so fried. So the way it's laid out is important, and I think it works. If I was better trained, I probably would have been able to approach these beautiful single tracks and views and stuff like that with more strength and more ability. But that's kind of my biggest, I guess, gripe with myself. Example is some of this footage. It's not all the great footage I got. It's just a little clip I wanted to show you guys. Just short. I mean, you're running through these like hay fields. It's hay, or the golden grass with these old trees that are kind of growing over you, providing you with a little bit of shade. But it's like the quintessential California trail running.
It was beautiful.
Gorgeous.
Like on our drive up, we drove by all these kind of golden hills, and we were saying like, oh, like we hope that some of this is included in the race, and that's exactly what it was.
Yeah. So that was pretty much the last half of the race. I mean, honestly, I'm sorry, I just spit all over you. I'm so sorry.
Whatever, we're married.
The second, it's true, I can do anything now. The second we hit mile 50, I made a clip where I kind of talked about how this is the second furthest I've ever run. This is the furthest I've run in 2 years, and I got really excited. It didn't matter how much like adrenaline I was able to pump through my body at that point, or happiness or any of that kind of stuff, because my legs they weren't going to respond. But I got really excited because I knew without a doubt I was getting my Western States qualifying time. It was going to be well under 16 hours.
You could have crawled at that point.
I could have stopped and walked
yeah.
and been still just fine.
Yeah.
And I knew like my goal of going 12 and a half or 13 hours was like, that was long gone. That was gone early on. Probably mile 30, 35. It wasn't going to happen. But I knew in the back of my mind, you came here for one reason, actually two. One was to finish. You were good. Two was to get your Western States qualifying time, and I was good.
Yeah.
So I knew all I needed to do was just kind of struggle through the last 12 miles. And that's exactly what I did. By the time I went to the Enriqueta aid station, got to give those guys a shout out for being in probably one of the most remote sections of the entire race.
Is that our out and back down?
Tiny little out and back downs. The most technical part of the whole race. The race is not technical. Compared to other races I've run, this is beautiful. It's rocky and lush, but it's not technical. This stretch was technical.
And I had fresh legs, and it was terrible.
Yeah, it was.
And I was thinking, I think I was telling you, like, concentrate on your form, like, pick up your feet, nice, like, light dancing feet. I was so worried about you catching your foot on one of those rocks.
Oh, so was I. I think I even mentioned that. I was like, I'm wearing the same socks I wore when I sprained my ankle, and
you brought that up a couple times.
I am completely deteriorated. This is the short section. I'm going to roll my ankle again. So it was all I could do to just like focus and go slowly. And by doing that, a blister popped. It was the first blister I've had in any race that popped, and I fucking howled. Because all of a sudden it was just like my left foot was on fire, just stinging. Everything was awful. You guys have had blisters. You know how it is when one pops and you didn't know it was there.
The noise and reaction you had when it happened, I thought you rolled your ankle.
Yeah, it was really bad.
I was like, what happened?
My whole back left heel is one giant blister. So it popped and leaked and stung like a bitch. We were within like 100 meters of the aid station. Yeah. So I roll into the aid station, and they were so great. They had everything that we needed except for Coke. Almost every aid station was out of Coke. They had some cold water, and they had, athletic tape. You had a blister band-aid. I was able to kind of wrap it up. I had to take my foot out of the shoe. This is all like time wasting stuff, which is always like, oh, I don't want to do this right now.
We had to take care of it.
I'm 5 miles away from the finish, and I don't want to take my shoe off, but I had to take care of it. So we basically taped it up, covered it up, and just was like, let's just get to the finish and we'll deal with it later. Sure enough, after we started climbing back out of the aid station, the pain just was like numb at that point. I couldn't even feel it.
Yeah.
So we basically climbed back out. We had 3 miles. It was 2 miles up, 1,000 feet up, and then 3 miles, 1,500 feet down, I believe.
Yeah, between Enriqueta and Bull Run was terrible.
Yeah, 1,500 feet down and 3 miles to 1,000 feet in 2 miles. So it's like basically straight up. You get back to Bull Run.
Yep.
The Bull Run aid station, they were so nice, and there was same kind of aid station where like they see you again and they welcome you back. It was really great to see them.
The whole time up to Bull Run, I think all I talked about was, I hope they have Coke. They're gonna have Coke. They're gonna have Coke for us.
Thankfully, they had Coke.
Because we'd gone through 2 aid stations back to back, and I knew that Ethan just like
I needed the caffeine and the instant sugar, and the carbonation. Honestly, that's what I needed, and no one had it. Nobody had any of it. They're like, "Oh, we ran out hours ago." I was like, "What do you mean hours ago? I'm in the middle of the 100K.
Yeah,
hours ago. Go to the grocery store." But yeah, they had Coke. They had everything that we needed. So we just kind of stayed there and talked with them and laughed. And we knew the finish was in the bag. At this point, it was just surviving the downhill.
I'm gonna say, like, Bull Run was like one of my favorite aid stations to be at. Everybody's just in really high spirits and just really willing to help. And
yeah, Kennedy and Bull Run were great.
Yeah.
So we get there, and it was time to wrap it all up.
This is mile 58.8 at this point. And I think at this point, your mood had kind of changed because we kind of knew what we had left to take care of. You were out of your kind of dark spot and you're more focused on like, you know, we're almost there. This is nothing. We've done this since a million times. And
we made a run to get more Coke thanks to our aid station Captain Peggy, says Isaac. What aid station were you, Isaac? Let us know.
I think
I'm going to talk about, so we're running long on time in the post show. I'm going to say it now because we have a good number of viewers and I want to make sure that you guys stick around for the post show so I can wrap up the main show. And this will encourage those who are listening on the podcast version to come watch the post show. I'm going to talk about gear. I'm going to talk about nutrition. I'm going to talk about everything, all the specifics, and answer all of your guys' questions. I'm just going to kind of wrap up the story because we're pretty much done.
Yeah.
So Bull Run aid station, we basically refill, and this is something I want to talk about. We talked about it while we were running, and it kind of puts everything into perspective. This was at hour 13 and 50 minutes, I think, because we had 2.5 miles left essentially downhill, and it's like 13 hours and 50. As we were heading, as we were heading back towards Bull Run, we're passing 100K runners who are still they just left Bull Run for the first time, which is mile for the first time.
Bull Run is mile 47.2.
47.2. I have 46.5. That's weird. My thing was off.
Slightly off.
So they're leaving that aid station. They still have 15 miles to go, and it is not easy. It is awful. And it kind of helps put things into perspective because as you're passing this person, I'm shouting words of encouragement. You're shouting words of encouragement. They're shouting words of encouragement.
And the guy, the racer had his pacer, and the guy that was racing like smiled at us and like gave us words of encouragement.
In my mind, I'm going, you don't know what you have ahead of you.
But
I do, because I just finished it, and it's awful. But you know what? He's going to get it done.
And that was the best, like that was one of the best things I saw all day. And I think I said to you, I said, that would be me. Like, that's probably where I would be at this point. Let's like embrace how good we have it right now and the kind of, you know, the energy we have and where we are in the race.
Yeah. It's kind of one of those things when you see it, when you experience it, it helps kind of level the playing field and put everything into perspective. It just helps you know that you don't have it so bad. And there are people out there that work just as hard. They take longer, but you know what? They're getting the same experience. They want to finish that race just like you. And they end up doing it. Doesn't matter what time they finish the race in, they get it done.
And they're smiling and cheering, you know, like that to me is the heart of the race. That's the kind of stuff that I really, really love seeing. And that's the kind of stuff that gets me emotional and gets me fired up to kind of do what I need to do. Yeah.
So it's pretty awesome. And I knew that, you know, with 3 miles left or 2.5 miles left, I was able to kind of wear a smile. Like at that point, you know, you're done. You're going to get your Western States qualifying time. You know, it's all downhill. I mean, literally, it's all downhill. So
we had nothing to complain about at that time.
Nothing. Yeah. So this last clip is me finishing.
Good job, good job.
Kim!
Yeah, you guys.
Oh, that was good. Congrats, man.
That was hard. That was no joke, right?
Yeah.
Congrats to you too. Nice work.
Yeah, nice meeting you. I met you earlier, like about 30 or 40. I'm
Now we're talking.
That looks pretty good, too.
Now we're talking.
Nice.
Thank you for kicking my ass for 14 hours.
You have fun?
Beautiful,
Oh,
man.
good. So you need to have a shot of beer then.
Hey, how'd you do?
12:46.
Fucking awesome, dude. That's excellent. All day, I'm like, I can probably get 13 and a half.
No, you did
go.
great. You did
I
great.
got my ass.
You didn't know the
crushed.
Carlitos Brew Company,
I will
Watsonville,
take it.
California.
Oh, I accidentally clicked the mouse button and it went to giveaway madness. I'm sorry. I thought I wasn't clicked. I'm sorry. I don't know where it ended, but I don't think I can get back there. I'm going to save it for the film. Totally ruined the moment. Because I drink a beer at the end. I chug a nice cup of beer.
I think I may actually interrupt you to make you share it with me.
Yeah, that is very possible. So that was the finish after a very long day. Normally, I get really emotional at a finish, especially one that it means that much to me. I think I spent a lot of my emotion that day.
You were pretty emotional for the entire 20 miles.
I'd never been in that much pain.
Yeah.
Regardless.
What'd you earn?
I got my buckle.
Yeah.
I got my Quicksilver 100k buckle. Normally, these are reserved for 100-mile races. I'm glad that Quicksilver has a buckle because it felt like 100 miles. So I'm going to wear this with pride. I'm going to stick it on a leather belt. I don't know how that works, but I'm going to make that happen. In addition to this, I got the cool t-shirt, and they have these rad hats too, which I think are really cool. Patagonia Quicksilver hats, the pint glass. They do it up a swag. That's for sure. So I'm really proud that I finally earned my very first buckle, fittingly in a race that is a Western States qualifier, which I got, and I got a new 100k personal record. So that to me is kind of my own little mind blow. What? That is I am using that term. My own mind blow. Because the Cuyamaca 100k 2 years ago took me 14 hours and 21 minutes to complete. I had a terrible day from miles 30 to 39 where it were like awful. Was walking and got saved by this older woman who came up behind me and walked with me and brought me back to life and like cheered me on and basically guided me through that race. This race I finished in 14:10. So I've not only beat my old record by 11 minutes, but this had
more elevation.
5,500 feet more elevation. I'm totally stoked on that. Granted,
so proud of you.
I would have loved to have finished a little bit faster, but that's one of those things where you look back and go, oh, I got my ass handed to me. I'm wrecked. That race destroyed me. I want to go back and do better.
And I think at one point I reminded you, altering expectations.
You actually said it, altering expectations. And all day, I have that embrace doubt mantra in my mind a lot. There's a reason I put it into the Squamish 50-50 film. It's because it's something that really, absolutely 100% guides me in a lot of these events. It's embrace doubt, because you never know what you're truly capable of. And as I'm pushing forward in this race, and you're sitting there in your mind going, you're at 12 miles. There's no way you can run another 48 miles or another 50 miles or another 55 miles or wherever you are. There's no way. But you have to embrace that. You have to embrace that negativity, because honestly, you won't know what you're truly capable of until you do. And on Saturday, a couple things came out of this. I knew I wasn't trained enough. I knew I needed to work harder. I knew I'm now able to complete that distance with that lack of training. But man, does it not give me more impetus to really rock Cascade Crest 100 miler coming up at the end of August. I'm terrified. I don't think I would be able to do it if I wasn't. I think if I went into that race not terrified, that'd probably be worse for me, because I feel like I really thrive off of being a little scared and a little bit, I don't want to say conservative, but just a little bit smarter, I guess, about the day.
Yeah.
If I had run that first 50K a little bit faster, I may not have finished the second 50K. You never know.
You never know.
I will just look back on Saturday and embrace the entire day as a full-on success. And I got to run 20 miles with my wife, and they were great.
So honored to have been able to join you for those last 20 miles and be your cheerleader and make you run to we're running to that green bush right there.
Yeah, we get to do a little, honestly, breaking things down into 10-foot increments. That is kind of where things got. It's that tough. For those of you who are looking to get a Western States qualifier, add the Quicksilver 100K to the list, because I guarantee you it will prepare you for Western States better than any other on that list, because it is in similar terrain. It is in similar weather. It can get very hot. and it will rock you. The uphills and the downhills are nasty. Western States is notoriously smooth and buttery single track, not really technical at all. This has a bit of technicality added in, which adds that extra element of training. You get that elevation. It's a great training tool, and those who train in that area is like their backyard. There's a reason why they are such badasses, is because the terrain kicks your ass. I kind of want to move into the post show because I kind of want to start answering questions and talk more about the gear and all that kind of stuff. The show is running long, but that's okay. We're fueled by beer right now. I have to thank the Quicksilver Running Club. I have to thank Greg. I actually never got the pronunciation of his last name right, but Greg Lankstote. Lankstote. I'm going to get it wrong. But Greg, thank you. Rajiv, John, the race directors, obviously all the volunteers. Just an amazing job. For those of you who watch every single week live, there's a reason why I'm able to push through these blog events, and it's because I don't want to let them down. So it's you guys I never want to let down, and you guys are always in my mind.
And thank you for everybody that was giving us support and congratulating us out there. That was really, really good fuel.
I can't tell you how many people asked how it was running with a ring on my finger. Hey, how's your left hand feel? Is it a little heavy? Yeah, it's a little bit heavier, like an ounce or so heavier. So the fact, I mean, that's really cool that we're able to post a photo or talk a bit about that. And then people around the globe and people at races that we go to know about it and talk to us about it. It's really neat. We absolutely love it. So it was really cool to meet a lot of you guys out there as well who were up at Quicksilver 100k. So let's get into the post show. That's pretty much it for the main show. I appreciate you guys watching live once again every single Monday, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, right here. Same bat channel, same bat place. I gotta change that. I gotta change that to Ginger. That's how it's gonna work.
I think that's accurate.
Kim, where can people find you?
milelonglegs.com, facebook.com/milelonglegs. Twitter is milelong_legs. Instagram, Kimberly DT.
And I want to make sure that we shout out Patreon.
Yes.
Go to patreon.com/thegingerrunner. Help support this channel. This channel is now fully funded by the viewers as opposed to sponsors, which is awesome. And we are giving perks to those who participate on the Patreon side. There is a private Patreon only feed. We will be doing a lot more with that in the future. Obviously, things are just getting ironed out. It's still brand new. So we like already sent promotional art to a lot of our patrons who were there early.
And that's coming like right from us. That's straight up like I'm handwriting all of the envelopes.
Yeah, I mean,
Ethan is designing everything.
There's no factory.
It's us.
This is art I designed. This is art that I signed. This is art that Kim is packaging, that I'm putting in frame, like everything. It's coming from us. It's coming from the studio. And that's the kind of stuff that we really want to do. These hats, the Ginger Runner hats, I designed them. I picked the fabrics, working with the distributor. Like these are going to be
packaging everyone.
We're going to be packaging them all. And so many people are like, the shipping, it sucks. There's so much shipping. In my mind, I'm going, it's not me. That's USPS. Like it's the cheapest I can get things to you. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of throw a couple things in there, hopefully to kind of balance it out. Just little like fun things. So hopefully that will help you guys at least tolerate the shipping charges a little bit
like
more.
A lock of ginger hair.
I'm hoping it's from my head. I hope you guys, or I'm sure you guys hope that as well. So that's pretty much it. So go to the Patreon side. We basically go into detail about all the cool benefits of the Patreon stuff on that page. There will be more perks as time goes on. We've already reached our second milestone goal.
Yes.
So there will be a new specific song for Patreons only, including a music video. And I have a really great idea for that. And I'm going to be pitching that idea to the Patreon side only. So patreon.com/thegingerrunner if you guys would like to, or if you already are a Patreon member, thank you. So we'll see you guys next Monday, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. In the meantime, stick around. We're going to go to the post show. I'm staying right here. Kim's staying right here. You guys are all staying right here. And
I'm staying right here on my cooler.
And we're going to answer questions and talk a little bit more about Quicksilver 100k. All right. We'll see you guys then. Zeb says, like a PBS drive. I mean, yeah. Essentially, I came to the realization it can't work where I go to sponsors and go, hey, give us money to help make a video and do this kind of thing when I am reviewing products. there's no way I can be objective and ask for money from the companies that I'm reviewing. That I don't even want to get into that. It's one thing if they want to sponsor a film and be like, hey, we want to fly you to X place and have you make a film about this racer. I'm like, well, that's cool. I can tell a story about that. But when it comes to actually funding what we're doing here, it has to be 100% objective. And I'm like, who better to help fund Ginger Runner than the viewers? Because they're the ones who want the content. They're the ones who enjoy this, who get it. And the best part is that it's optional. So there's no reason why anybody has to pay. It's just people who are like, you know what? I like this stuff. I found myself over the last 4 or 5 years using these reviews as tools and educational things. I have no problem giving $1 a month to this guy and to this girl. And there's going to be a lot more content coming up. And we didn't talk about it in the main show, but obviously we can mention it now because I think we've already made it public. But Kim, the goal is to have her own YouTube channel so we can have a female side to things, because like I can't review female shoes or female packs or female clothes.
Although you do look really cute in a sports bra.
There will be a video someday where I'm reviewing a sports bra or a running skirt or something. I guarantee it, purely for comedic value. But for those women out there who are watching the show or who watch the reviews but have asked, like, what about the women's version of this? I obviously can't answer that. Kim sure as hell can. So Kim will have her whole channel, and it'll basically be stylized the same. So it'll kind of be that same sort of system that you guys are probably already familiar with, but it's all Kim. And we're really, really excited about that. And this is all helping to fund that. So.
And I mean, in the meantime, a lot of you ladies, I had too much beer.
Me too. Theodore actually.
A lot of you ladies know where to contact me on Facebook is usually the best route if you have any questions about the gear that I've been using, and I can try and help you out that way.
Theodore says, need a non-running sponsor like Subaru. I mean, I totally agree.
Yeah.
But what happens if we get a Subaru car and want to review it? Yeah, that's not going to happen. But getting, I totally agree. Getting a sponsor like Subaru would be great. But I mean, honestly, we're two people sitting in an 8-foot by 8-foot office space and us emailing Subaru and going, hey, do you want to like sponsor this show or these reviews?
And they're like,
not likely.
You're sitting on a cooler.
Email us when you have a chair.
Yeah.
Let's go. Let's go into it.
I have a bunch of questions that I've pulled out of the chat room. If you guys have more that you want to ask, just go ahead and ask them, and I'll try and do my best to get to them. I'm just gonna go.
Do you have any more Sculpin?
Well, I have the can right. No.
We have that other beer though, right?
Well, the fact that you're calling it a buh.
Should I not have it?
Maybe we shouldn't have it until we have dinner.
Oh, I should have eaten today.
Yeah.
Kemosavi75
asks, how much of the Quicksilver 100k is runnable? How much of the runnable did you run?
All right, so this is 100% objectionable to the runner. You look at these elite guys; they're running the whole thing.
Right.
I mean, honestly, I need to talk to people like Jesse and people like Paul Terranova. Paul Terranova, by the way, ran the Miwok 100k the week before.
So crazy.
And then comes and gets second place at Quicksilver. So I think it's going to depend on the runner. I think this field was fairly front heavy. There are a lot of really experienced guys, a lot of old school guys who've just done this race or done these hills a lot. So they knew what to expect and they've trained on it and stuff like that. For me, running wise, it was far less than 50%. I think because a lot of the downhills you could run, but in my later, the last 50K, I couldn't run them hard. So it was really more like shuffling the downhills just because my legs were so wrecked that I knew that there was still so much race to go. I would say 80 to 90% of the uphills I walked. There were a couple of hills I was able to kind of compare to local SoCal hills like Westridge, hills that I've run on a regular basis as part of training. I was able to go, oh, this is just like Westridge. I can run this. So I would. But then you'd get to a section of it that was much steeper and go, well, I got to walk now. So I would say 80% was, no, 80% of the hills were not runnable. Overall, the whole course, maybe 20% to 30% for me. Not a lot.
Yeah, it's always going to depend on the runner. It's going to depend on where you're training and what you consider runnable. It's very, very,
I mean, I've talked about this before on the show as being, I hate the term runnable because it is so dependent.
Somebody from North Vancouver might go, 99% of it
Right.
was runnable.
Right.
You know,
Right. Because they're used to training on steep technical stuff.
Yeah.
This was not technical, but it was very steep. So, it's just different. When things are technical and steep, you have stuff to step on, rocks, roots, other things like that. But when you're coming down, it's much more difficult. Here, you don't have much to step on. There's one clip I have where I'm actually slipping in the video because I can't keep grip on my shoes. The camera's facing away, so you don't really get a sense of what's happening, unfortunately, so I don't even know if I can use the clip. But I'm slipping, like I fall, and the guy next to me is like, whoa, oh, and he slips. So it's a totally different beast. So unfortunately, I can't really answer that question because, our abilities are different. Who was that? Was that Raul Engel?
That was Kimosabi 75.
Oh, Kimosabi. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
First, hi, Mom. Because I feel like my mom watches every week.
Hi, Pat.
And second, Casey
Licktie
says, Ethan, what are 3 things you did well and what are 3 things that you need to improve on?
Oh, man. Great question. Should have answered that during the regular show. Sorry, Casey. 3 things I did well.
Yeah.
Nutrition. I feel like my nutrition was actually pretty good.
I would say for like 90% of the time.
Yeah, 90% of the time. I had one very quick bout of nausea. That was with you.
With me.
And it was a very sudden, I felt like my legs get tingly. I felt my body get tingly, and I instantly felt nauseous. And I told Kim, I go, I feel nauseous. And I kind of walked it out, and it went away. That was late.
You to pop a ginger chew, and I think we kind of held off on the liquid nutrition a little bit at that point.
So that's one thing I did well. And let's go into the nutrition thing. The Tailwind. So all the time I had a bottle of Tailwind per hour, 200 or so calories of Tailwind per hour. I made it a little bit thicker because I knew early on it wasn't going to be super hot, so the water wouldn't go through my body quite as quickly. I was trying to work on that, so I hydrated. Actually, that's another thing I think I did really well. So I just kind of kept on with nutrition with Tailwind. And every aid station, if they had potatoes, some of them did not, I would take a couple slices of potatoes, the boiled potatoes, because they were soft. If they were not cooked, I would spit it out. Watermelon or fruit, and then ginger chews. I did ginger chews all day. There wasn't a time in my mouth where there was not a ginger chew. It's a weird sentence. Never thought I'd say it.
I think when you actually picked me up, you kind of said, remind me to.
I told you, yeah. Chews. After this aid station, remind me to put a ginger chew in my mouth. Wasn't because I was feeling any sort of nausea, but it was right around that mile 12 early on when I was really not feeling great. It wasn't any sort of. It was all like a mental thing. I wanted to just stick the ginger chew in to make sure that I was like kind of mentally on point with what I was putting in my mouth and stuff like that. So, and then Coke. And that was pretty much it for nutrition throughout the entire day.
So what else did you do right?
Hydration. So problem with Leona Divide, I didn't sweat at all during Leona Divide, and it was hot. It was 85 or 90 degrees. Not super hot, but enough where I was trying to do it as a heat training, preemptive training run for Quicksilver, and I was not sweating and got annihilated late in the race. So this time I started hydrating really, really well a good 2 weeks before. I am notorious for just avoiding water, not feeling like I need to drink it all day. And I think that's a big problem. I think that's something I need to work on just throughout every day. But leading up to this race, I was a little bit more diligent about bringing in a couple more cups of water and kind of building that up over the week, 2 weeks leading up to the race. I think that helped a lot because I peed more this race than any other ultra I've ever run.
That was also one of the things.
Any run.
Yeah, one of the first things you said to me, because I think that's one of the first questions I asked you. How are you peeing? Okay, what else did you do right?
I'm trying to think of what else I did right. Kept my body wet. So any aid station, even early on, that had ice or buckets with ice water, I would put it on me, and not just my neck, but on my arms and my legs. Yeah. So I knew that my legs were going to be the hardest working part of my body with all the climbs and the slow climbs. So keeping those muscles cool would allow the blood to not have to work so hard to keep them cool, which would hopefully allow me to sweat out the liquid that I notoriously hold in. So I would, anytime there was ice, I would put it under my hat or douse my body in water. The other problem with that, though, is that I do carry a GoPro that is in a skeleton case, which can get wet. So if a volunteer would start getting me wet, I'd have to like tell them to stop because I'd have to do it myself.
You're pretty proactive at getting.
Yeah, I just didn't want them to get the camera wet and ruin all the footage. So I would say staying wet.
Okay. Anything you did wrong?
Anything I did wrong? Didn't train hard enough. I think base mileage was something I didn't work on.
Sure.
but because I couldn't. I didn't want to build up too fast. I think that's something I'm going to work on in the coming weeks. I think the shirt, my Ginger Runner shirt that I wore, was too hot. I need to work on finding gear that I can sport that's lighter.
That shirt is pretty thick.
It's just it is a t-shirt. It is a sport material. It's a little heavy, and when you get it wet, it stays heavy, and when it gets hot, it gets hot.
Kind of locks in.
Yeah, it kind of locks in the heat. So I need to, I eventually would like to manufacture my own goods. I just need to figure out how to do that.
Do you think you did anything else? Anything else that you need to improve on?
Yeah.
You did wrong.
I mean, when it comes down to training, I think I would really like to work on climbing and descending a lot better. Not necessarily technical, but speed-wise, I would really like to get faster. Of course.
Raul Angle asked, Kim, how many miles did you get to pace Ethan? Paced him for about 20 miles, the last 20 miles of the race. Raul also asked, what did you do well, which we just covered. What did you learn? And what would you do different heading into Western if you got chosen?
What did I learn?
What did you learn?
Oh, man. I mean, it's so basic. And everyone talks about it of all abilities and all levels. It's just never quit. All day, I just was kind of battling that today's not your day. Because you always hear these stories of people DNFing because it wasn't their day or things going wrong and, DNFing and stuff like that. And, I worry that it's like I never want to get that DNF. I never want to get that DNF. You got to stop worrying about that because if that day comes, that day will come. But in this case, you're fine. Like there's no injury that's keeping me from finishing. There's nothing like drastic that's keeping me from finishing. You got to keep pushing. So honestly though, when I finished Quicksilver, I told you, and I'm still telling you, I have no idea how the hell I'm going to finish a 100-miler. I have no idea. I have no grasp of what happens after 62 miles. I was so wrecked by mile 40 something in this race, which was a sign of the lack of training, but also the course itself. It's like, how the hell am I going to be able to accomplish another 38 miles on legs that are that thrashed? And I know as soon as you add more training and you kind of dial that in and you get more experienced, we'll get you there. But man, it's so hard to fathom. It's so hard to fathom.
So I need to sneeze. Two questions that kind of tie into each other from our good friend Guillaume. What was the experience having Kim as a pacer? Any different than one with a regular friend as a pacer? Wondering if being paced by or pacing a loved one makes any difference. Kristen Winger, one of our Patreon gals, asked Kim, how did it feel to switch places and pace Ethan? So those are kind of two questions that tie in. So let's start with you.
Keep your eye on the live chat too, because there's some good stuff coming through. Okay, so in answer to Guillaume's question, this was something I was battling leading up to this race. I asked a number of friends that were local to the area if they were available to pace, because in my mind, I was like, I need someone, I need a pro, I need an elite, I need someone to come with me and to like push me. Because I was like, I want to get a PR and I want to do all this really great stuff and I want to be impressive and all this kind of stuff. No one was available. Really, no one was available. And it was like, do I really need a pacer? And then I realized I'm going to ask Kim because I have a feeling I'm going to be really, really wrecked. And I'm going to need someone that's just going to be there to support me no matter what. Like, it wasn't ever a matter of pace. If I brought on, someone who's an elite or a sponsored athlete to pace me, I would be slowing them down so much. I would be more worried about wasting their day than anything, when all I really needed was just someone to keep me company and to like guide me. And then I realized there's no one better than the person I love. The problem was that I was worried we were either going to have an Oregon recap where we would get at each other's throats and cause some problems. But I was also worried that you would hate me if I was like feeling really good and really wanted to push really fast, or our paces were going to be different, or you were having a bad day, or because you would have had to crew all day leading up to this, and then all of a sudden run 20 miles. And you have not done that yet. You've crewed me at races, but you have not crewed all morning and all afternoon and then picked up the bag and run with me, like your pack and run with me. So I was just worried about maybe ruining your day. It was awesome. I couldn't have asked for a better pacer or a better day. I had someone there that knew inside jokes, inside stories to kind of get me motivated and kind of like tweak my humor. Also kind of piss me off because those jokes, I'm like, those jokes are old. Those jokes are old. And then 2 miles later, tell me those jokes again. Tell me those jokes again. It was way better than I ever could have imagined. And there's no one I would have rather crossed that finish line with. No.
And I guess to answer Kristen's side of the question, how is it kind of have the tables turned? Because normally, you would be pacing me or encouraging me. It was amazing. And I think I said it a number of times during the day, like how honored I was and how special it was to me to be able to join you for those last 20 miles and to kind of, it was interesting for me to see Ethan in that capacity. He's seen me there. You've seen me very depleted and very in those dark places before. I really haven't seen you in that capacity outside of the very isolated aid station. Few minutes I get to see you. So it was great. As Ethan mentioned, I tried to like say a little joke here and there, and sometimes I would get like crickets. And
I couldn't talk.
Okay,
I mean, yeah, there were.
right.
And then she'd look at me and she'd realize, oh, he's not talking. Oh, he's dying. Well, there was one time I I took off my sunglasses.
Oh,
and what did you say?
I said, so you took off your sunglasses, and I was with you for almost 5 hours. So it was after hours of being with you. You take off your sunglasses and I go, oh, there, I can finally see your eyes. And you go, do they look dead?
Because nothing was processing. I could barely talk or laugh. The only noises were just, I mean, that was it, because I was in so much pain. My legs were moving.
It was a little tough to see you in that type of scenario, but knowing that I could be a part of helping you get to your finish.
Phil LaCroix is heading out. Thanks, Phil. Thanks for tuning in, man. Appreciate it.
It was amazing. Kimosabi asked if I was offended that you didn't think of me first or think of
I
me
saw that
sooner.
question. Yeah.
Absolutely not. At these type of races, I already have a big job, and my job is usually to crew for you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big enough job. So, going into this race, knowing that I'd be crewing for you and also hopping in at some point was a little daunting. But I'm happy to do it, and I would do it again.
Yeah, and it's the same as vice versa. Absolutely. We've had this understanding for a long time now that if I have a race and I need a crew, Kim will be my captain because she knows me better than anybody else.
If there's one person that I'm going to trust, it's going to be my partner.
Right.
Like that's who I want in charge of.
And that's who I want in charge at the aid stations when I need it the most. Right. If Kim is with me on the trail, she will know what maybe I need at a certain time pacing. But how is she going to translate that to someone who's going to be at the aid station and, doing that kind of stuff if I already have a crew that's in place? Having an aid station or a crew captain that's able to look at me and go, Ethan's just having a rough section versus Ethan needs Coke or Ethan needs this or that. That's 100% Kim's role. We've already had this discussion and we determined that early on because she knows you better than anybody else. This was kind of the first time. This was also kind of like an experiment. Right. It wasn't like a crucial race where, like the 100-mile thing where I don't even know what's going to happen. It's kind of one of those, you know what? There's this 20-mile section. I could or could not use a pacer, but I would really like to have a 20-mile run with my wife. And let's just see what happens. At any point, Kim, we even talked about that too, where Kim could have dropped at one of the aid stations and just been like, right. I'm back to crew captain now. I'm no longer pacing. Ethan, you're good. I am now going to kind of go back to the role of crew captain and then go back to the car and help me meet up at aid stations and stuff like that. So that was also in the plan. It just so happened I really, really needed her. And so it was really, really great. I couldn't have asked for a better pacer, honestly. I should have asked you first. I really should have. But we have that agreement for races in the future, including Cascade Crest.
Right.
I'll have to find out if we can have multiple pacers for Cascade as far as between mile and mile, because I had a really good time with you, so we'll have to work on that. See if we can make that happen there.
Yeah. Raul B asks, in terms of effort, how different was your strategy between a tough 50 miler and this 100K?
So a really great comparison is the North Face 50 miler. So the North Face 50 miler in December, 10,000 plus feet of elevation. This is 12 miles more, has more, another 3,500. The North Face is a tough 50 miler with some really brutal climbs late in the race. As far as effort level, I dialed it back considerably from North Face because of that extra 12 miles and my lack of training. It all reared its ugly head. My lack of training absolutely proved that it was there. With lack of training in this case, I was able to get those 250Ks done. So the Gorge 50K plus the Leona Divide 50K, I was able to get them done as training runs leading up to this. It wasn't enough. It just wasn't enough training for this race, because this race is really, really hard. So my effort level was far lower than it was for any of the more faster 50 milers. With this under my belt now, I feel like I could go into a 50 miler with that additional confidence and be able to go, I really want to push today. And if I hit something at mile 35 or 40, that wall, I know that I can push through for another 10 miles and still hopefully get a really good time. So I'm actually really excited to run another 50K or 50 miler. That always happens when you run a distance longer. That's really, really tough, is you have this additional confidence to run a shorter distance that's tough. So I feel like I could go do Squamish 50 right now and just destroy it. It would destroy me, but I feel like I could go there. Oh yeah, good luck with that. I feel like I could go to Squamish 50 and maybe improve my PR by another 30 minutes or something. And then North Face, maybe another. I could probably go sub 10 at North Face, just based off of confidence alone to push early on.
It's always interesting, the translation of, running a longer distance run and kind of figuring out how much more could I have pushed? How much more energy can I spend early on? That kind of thing. So, yeah. Sister Heidi is in the chat room.
Sister Heidi, like my sister?
No, like a sister Heidi. No, your sister Heidi.
Wow, that's awesome. Heidi, I didn't realize. My sister never watches the show.
Heidi. It's because I'm on.
That's
right,
true.
Heidi?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, it's true.
Lots of questions. Can we do a gear rundown of what you run?
Oh, yeah. So we talked about nutrition. Gear-wise, of course, I didn't bring any in here. The hat was, of course, the Ginger Runner limited edition hat. The store is still open. Go get yours now. GingerRunnerStore.com. It is still open. I haven't closed it yet because we've been doing live show. So if you want to get your pre-order in on that hat, you got to do it now, because I'm going to close it the second this show closes down. I can't move my legs.
That's okay. Don't need them right now.
Yeah, don't really need them.
Gear rundown.
Yeah, I'm working my way down. Sunglasses, Jublo, Jublo sunglasses. They were great. They're the bright orange ones you saw in the videos there. Great lenses. Really, really awesome. I love them. They're great. They're the new glasses I've been wearing, and
cute.
They're super. Thank you. Keep going down. Pack-wise was the Solomon 5L, the 2015 model.
I was also wearing that.
Yeah, it was great. Obviously, what I love about it is I never had to take it off. I could put my GoPro in the back. I have all my tailwind right here along the lower back, so I can just access that really easily. Cell phone along the side. I had gels in the side pockets, the bottles up front. The only problem is that the bottles, when they do get full of water plus ice, they get a little heavy and they fall down into those pockets because they're not meant to go in those pockets. Those are soft glass pockets. So what ends up happening is they fall in deeper, and then they become like this loose fucking pom-pom on each of your man boobs, and it becomes a bit bothersome. It's just because the pockets aren't designed for that.
Not my man boobs.
No, mine. So that was the major problem with the pack, but it didn't bug me pretty much all day.
The bottles are great though for keeping the measurements and kind of keeping you on track.
I feel like I need the bottles.
I'm a fan of that as well.
Just having that exact ounce of water plus putting the ice in there, and it's easy. You can just pour the powder plus the ice in the water.
This is and it kind of came into play when I was pacing you, because I was trying to keep you on track as far as nutrition.
Right.
And I'd glance over and I'd see one of his bottles was really full.
Yeah, you can visibly see
and
it.
It's kind of like, we need to get rid of that.
Yeah,
in
work
38
on that.
minutes.
Yeah, work on that. Shirt was it's a custom one that I did just for myself. It's not available anywhere. I need to work on that because I still feel like it's a little too hot for hot weather. It's created by New Balance, but it has like some custom design work that I did on it. I've been testing it out for the last 6 months or so just to kind of gauge if it's going to work. And I think I need to kind of go back to the drawing board on it. Then the shorts were the Pearl Izumi Ultra shorts, not the ones with the long spandex shorts underneath, but the more like the underwear underneath.
Yeah.
So the Pearl Izumi Ultra short. And they're so rad. I love those shorts. Honestly, those could be my race shorts forever.
And they look cute.
And they look cute. They got great pockets on the sides and on the back. I reviewed them before. Check them out. They're really good. And I would love to talk to Pearl Izumi about making some crossover customization ones.
On your feet?
Feet were the Hoka 11 Challenger ATRs.
Which we also both wore.
Honestly,
yeah.
I was going back and forth between so many shoes for this race. I really wanted to rock the Nike Wild Horse 3s.
They're not in here.
They're not in here.
And I had those available for you, right? Is that what
yeah,
I was
but I'm not, my size isn't right now. So the ones that I have, I've been wearing a little bit just to kind of gauge the sizing. I think I need a half size smaller. So I didn't want to risk it. I didn't want to risk a half size larger shoe. I really want to run a race in those though, because they're totally different than the Wild Horse 2s. I rocked the Hoka Challenger ATR because I ran the North Face 50 miler in them, love them, have done a ton of miles in my previous pair, went to REI on Thursday night, bought a brand new pair, and rocked them for the race with no problems. Like that, I mean, I have that much faith in that shoe because I've run so much in the previous, or in my version of them. They're great. And almost every single runner I ran with out there had those.
There was a lot of Challengers out there.
Yeah, Challenger, it was like the shoe of choice. It was great because in my mind, logically, it's a long distance, 62 miles. I'd rather have something nice and cushioned, something with a little bit of grip on the bottom, and they work great. I just got a pair of the Hoka 11 Speed Goats. Have not even had a chance to put them on my feet because my feet are still swollen. I'm really, really excited to see what those things can do.
I put mine on my feet and they feel.
Yeah, you were saying they feel really squishy. The outsole on them is far more rugged than the Challenger, which I'm really excited to kind of see if they work on in weather conditions and on technical trails. It should be really fun. Socks and Injinjis. Just been going with Injinjis. Always work. They always work. Yeah.
Anything else? What watch?
Cento Ambit 3.
Asking about your watch. People are asking, you know, how did your watch last as far as battery, and did you do anything special to your watch to make it last?
I couldn't do anything special because moves count was down. The night before, moves count was down, so I could not change the duration of GPS intervals. That is one of my major gripes with the Cento, as I always mention in the reviews, is that it depends on moves count to change it. You can change it in app, but the app wasn't even connecting to my Cento at that time.
But it worked out fine, right?
Worked out just fine.
Yeah.
So the intervals I have are like the quickest, most detailed intervals. And I still right now have 23% battery left. And I've used it now for a hike yesterday and all day today, syncing and doing all sorts of stuff. I still have 23% after 14 hours and 10 minutes plus 2 hours of hiking yesterday. So totally good. That was the watch.
As far as gear goes, there's been a couple questions. Why don't you use the soft flasks? Why bottles over soft flasks? I've had this question for myself as well, and it's a pretty obvious answer.
Okay. Solomon soft flasks that come with the packs are too narrow on the top for me to get the powder in and ice. So they don't necessarily, there's nothing in here.
No.
So they don't work for a hot race, in my opinion. I always hold on to the soft flasks because they work great for shorter distance races. But when you're working with a long distance race, I personally need to take in about 20 to 23 ounces of water or liquid per hour. And it's much easier to do that in a hard bottle than a 17-ounce soft flask. And those soft flasks don't hold 17 ounces. They hold about 15.5 to 16 ounces. The Hydra Pack soft flasks that are 500, 700, and I believe 900 milliliters or ounces. I forget. I think it's milliliters.
Yeah.
Are great because they have a little bit wider mouth. And I get this question all the time. Why don't you use the Hydra Pack ones? The problem is the locking mechanism on the bite valve for me is confusing, and it's really difficult to turn when you have wet or sweaty hands. So to get those open, there's not enough grip, and there's not enough, I guess it's just essentially grip. It's really difficult to lock them or open them when you have sweaty or wet hands. So I have a real issue with those, and they're shorter. So when they get into those Solomon backpack pockets, they drop all the way in, and you like have a hard time pulling them back out. It's just problematic.
I'll just add to that, as a lady, the soft flasks definitely feel better in the pack. But I still always end up using the bottles on long runs or races just for the exact same reasons that Ethan was talking about. There is no way in a race situation that I want to be dealing with like a narrow mouth flask and trying to get the powder in for me. It just make me more mad. One more gear related question. Heidi's asking, thick or thin in gingies? We're different on this.
Yeah, we are different in this.
Yeah.
And this is also going to be race dependent. I like to wear the middle or original weight in gingies, a little bit thicker for the longer races because I like that additional layer between me and the insole of the shoe.
And I'm always lightweight.
You're always lightweight, long or short distance.
Yeah, I prefer less in the shoe.
If I'm doing speed work or a 6 to 15 mile run, the thins don't bother me at all. It's when I start going for the ultra distances, 50K or beyond, that I can't do the thin ones. So I like to do original or middleweight. Yeah, midweight. Middleweight sounds like a boxing term.
This start to feel a little hot for me or something. I don't know what it is.
Yeah. What else am I missing here? I'm so sorry I haven't been following the chat. Yeah, it took the aid volunteers a long time to fill my soft flasks. Although in a 100-mile race, that's likely to be less of an issue. I'd never use them for a 50-mile or less race.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, if you're doing a 100-mile race, you have all the time in the world, really, at aid stations to kind of get that stuff filled. But when you're dealing with ice cubes, that's kind of the problem. Because ice cubes don't fit into the Solomon flasks really at all.
And we definitely needed those ice cubes, even though they only lasted us for minutes. I
will say that I carried the 2 bottles up front. I didn't show this or talk about this. In the back, I had a Solomon soft flask full of cold water. And what I was doing early on in the race is what you're able to do with the Solomon ones is just squeeze that bite valve. And you could basically, it's a garden hose. You just spray it on yourself. So that's what I was doing pretty much between miles 12 to 35 or so, was just going along my arms, going along the back of my neck, and going down my legs. And that little splash of cold water, it was actually stayed pretty cold, was a lifesaver. It just kind of like almost shocked the skin, even if momentarily, to kind of bring it back to life. It was great.
Unrelated, or I guess non-related to running question. Brian Breen says, Kim, my wife, married in September. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
You guys. Demands that I rock the beard at least half the year. Ethan does rock a great beard. Yes, he does. Do you have thoughts on whether or not he rocks the beard? You know I like a beard.
Kim likes the beard. I shaved it for our wedding.
You did? Yes.
That's weird to say. We had a wedding 2 weeks ago. It's almost our 2-week anniversary.
That's true.
I did shave it for that. And this is 2 weeks of growth at this point. I have not shaved since. And I like it trimmed. I really do.
Like big and burly, I think
it gets itchy, and I find myself touching it a lot, and I don't like that. I don't like touching my face.
I don't like doing this.
No, I just don't. I find myself doing this or digging for the super hairs, the hairs that are like double growing. Those of you who are married or are beard guys, you will know what I'm talking about. I don't like that, so I'm gonna try to keep it more trim. And I look younger, and as I get older, the more you can do to look younger, the better.
Kimasabi75, do you listen to tunes during a race? What do you listen to when you run? Not really.
I brought my stuff this weekend because I thought, oh, maybe this is the weekend I'm going to want the music. I forgot it. I forgot to pack it because I haven't been running with music lately. There was a period about a year ago when I would religiously listen to music. I would pop on like Pandora or something where I could just type in an artist, maybe an artist that I'm into at that time, and just listen to it. And kind of see what happens. But then I realized Pandora just starts playing the same stuff over and over, and I get really frustrated.
We actually dealt with that just while we were driving.
Yeah. you get to a point in a race where you're 2 miles or 2 hours in and go, this is the same song I've already heard, and you'd be pissed because all you want is new stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know. When I do listen to music, I like listening to the kind of stuff that I make as far as more like ambient electronica, kind of symphonic electronic stuff. Cinematic Orchestra is great. Death Cab for Cutie, the new album, we've been listening to that non-stop. Kintsugi, I would recommend you buy it.
I listen to that when I run.
It's so good.
That suit you.
Ben Gibbard has been on the show, and we ran a lot together at Leona Divide, and he's going to be in that video when I post it, but he's not watching the show because I think he's in some other city. His album is really good, so I would highly recommend going and supporting. But yeah, Tycho, I really like Tycho.
Tycho's great.
M83 is really good.
Also great.
Oh man, there's so many
Ginger
artists.
Runner Grinds is also great.
Ginger
We
Runner
actually had
Grinds is
some, like,
fantastic.
people come up to us after the race showing us their
Oh,
iPods
yeah.
and stuff, or their
I
phones.
forget his name. We've seen him at multiple races now. He was like, I just finished the race and look what song was playing, and he was showing the Kuyamaka song that I made that he was playing and was listening to. It was like, oh my god, that's so crazy! People are finishing races listening to our music. It's really cool.
Camille Delabec asked, "Hey Ethan, when are we going to get Guillaume in the show again?"
Whenever he returns my calls.
Guillaume.
Guillaume, answer your French phone. Just kidding. Guillaume has been watching the show a lot. We love Guillaume. We're gonna go out with him and his lady here soon, and we'll talk about getting him back on the show. He's gonna be doing UTMB very soon as well. So having maybe a pre-race show with him and kind of going, because he is French and he knows the race and he knows all about the culture there. So maybe we can have him on as like a pre-UTMB show or something like that. An incredible runner. Cannot wait to see what he does.
Really good guy.
Oh yeah, and also a really good guy.
I mean, he's okay. David Swinburne, what keeps you motivated in between races?
So right now I have a big gap between now and Cascade Crest 100 miler. As far as motivation, I think having a big race or having an A race in the middle or later end of the year, something that you have to train a long time for and work on a lot of specific details for, I think that helps me stay really motivated.
Just like helps you take away some of the stress
Mm-hmm.
when it gets closer to that big goal,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Another great thing is adding smaller distance races to use as training runs, but also like tests. So that'll help you. That'll help kind of keep you in the loop of your own training cycle. So one thing that I did, the Gorge 50K and Leona Divide 50K, both of which were just, I really wanted to get out there onto the trail. Like the Gorge, Gorge race is just an incredible race to be a part of anyways. But using it as a training run allowed me to kind of approach it with a bit different perspective of like, let's just get out there and enjoy it and push myself a little bit and kind of see where I'm at. And then Leona Divide was this is a training run. Let's see where I'm at. And you have to maintain your training cycle when you have little races like that. If you're training for your first marathon at the end of the year, throw in a 5K or a 10K and work on that speed. Throw in a half marathon. These are all confidence builders.
It's also just really good to get into the race setting.
Oh, yeah. It's because a race setting is different than a training run. You're going to get caught up in it. You need to learn how you behave in a race scenario. I know that I get caught up in the first 10 miles of every race. It doesn't matter. Like Quicksilver, I wanted to run up these hills with these guys and these girls that were just flying by me. It was all I could do to just take it back a notch and hike. Even when guys are like, dude, Ethan, keep up with us. We're doing 12-minute miles and doing all this. And I'm like, that's what I want to do. I got to walk, guys. You gotta be able to do that. If I had
your own race.
If I had tried to run with those guys, I wouldn't have finished. I guarantee you I wouldn't have finished. It would have been too much based off of how little I had left at the finish. Yeah.
Do you want to take a couple more questions?
Yeah, a couple more questions, then we'll have dinner.
Sierra Otillie Kovelman, ever want to do Badwater 135?
No.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah. It's yes for me, because it's one of those races that has,
it's hot, right?
That's the problem. So the reason I want to do it is because it's one of those races that has the history as one of the toughest foot races in the world. You deal with heat and desert and huge climb. It's notorious for being just really, really difficult. That's why I would want to do it. Why I don't want to do it is because of heat, because of the huge climb, and because it's one of the most difficult races in the world.
Yeah.
There's just, it's that when you start doing ultras, you start going, oh, I can challenge myself and pick the hardest one and do all this. And what's the next hardest thing and the next furthest I can push myself and stuff. And Badwater's kind of one of those. You got to do it. It's one of those badges of honor.
I have zero desire.
I do so poorly in heat because growing up in the Northwest and trying to survive down here in LA has
Yeah.
been a struggle with the heat and stuff like that. So maybe my body's not designed to do it. I don't know, but there's always that like element to I want to challenge myself and see if I can push through it.
Sure.
But I don't know. I'll never say never, but I'm definitely going to say no.
Raul E asked, Ethan, ever poop on a race? Didn't do it myself until Leona.
Really, Raul? And that's crazy because Raul had a crazy good 50-mile time.
Maybe that's what he needed.
Maybe that is what you needed. The only time I did was during Squamish 50-50, and it was during the 50K. It was during the 50K, and no, what was it? 50-miler? It was one of those two. I had to step off into the woods and do it, and I tell you, it felt amazing. Felt amazing. I've been actually pretty lucky with maybe like getting it done before the race. Leona was a squeaker. I don't mean
you were almost late to the start
because unfortunately, whatever the company was that was supposed to deliver for the porta potties, they just like the company was, I don't know what happened with the company. They were like, we just decided to show up at the race start with the porta potties. So there was one bathroom or two bathrooms for all of the racers, and it was one at a time sort of scenario. And the line got long really, really quick. So by the time I actually got into the bathroom, it was 3 minutes to race start. And by the time I got out, they were like, all right, so everyone's ready to go. Here we go. That kind of thing. It was just like, what the fuck? I got to get sunscreen on.
I was at the car with your stuff, and you still weren't back. And they were like announcing, it's time to go.
And I didn't need to go. Even as I'm waiting in line, I'm like, I don't need to go. But I know I'm going to need to go. So it wasn't until I got into the bathroom and I just was like, I gotta force it. And you sit there for,
that's enough.
That's enough. I won't get into too much detail, but I managed to make something happen. And then when the race started, I felt good. I didn't need to go during the race.
Story.
Thank you.
Get up and run for it. Asks, what is your top race on your top 10 race list?
So my bucket list.
What's your top race? That's a tough question.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know yet. I really don't know.
Can you give us one race on your bucket list?
I can give you a number of races that are on my bucket list.
Give me one list. One race.
give me one list. Great. UTMB. Whether it's the UTMB 100 or CCC, which is the 100k version. Western States, obviously. Cascade Crest, which I'm running this year.
Yes.
All of the rain shadow races, and that is only because I know that I'm so in love with how they handle all their races, and every one that they do is so tough. Orcus, cannot wait to finally run Orcus.
100, right?
No.
Right? Matt and Carrie are in here saying, like, come on, guys. Like, you guys got to sign up for the 100.
Based off this weekend, I don't know if I could. I mean, even, I think, joked about that at one point. Like, imagine doing Powerline 4 times.
I told you, I think I brought that up because we're going into one of our tougher climbs in the later bit there. And I said, at least we're not having to go up Powerline 4 times today.
Yeah. Wasatch. I think Vermont 100, because it's one of those, it's just like the age-old thing to do. I have no clue about Hard Rock as far as what it's really like. I've only heard the stories. I want to go to the San Juans and experience those firsthand. If there was a race in Yosemite, I would do it. Andy Pearson and his buddy Peter this weekend did the unsanctioned, fully self-supported 100-mile Yosemite run. Because of weather, they had to cut it short to 72 miles. I'm going to get them on the show. I believe it's June 1st. They're going to come on the show and talk about it. If there was a 100-mile Yosemite trail run, any ultra run through Yosemite, that would be on the list because that whole place is just incredible.
C-Time asks, what about Comrades?
I've heard the legend of Comrades being throw that on the list. It's a road ultra. It's super tough, but people have said it's one of the most incredibly culturally accepting, globally aware races on the planet. It's like you watch the live stream of it and you can't help but just get emotional seeing people of all walks of life, of all abilities, who've trained all year for this one race. Comrades is notorious, absolutely.
A lot of people are like, really wanting to do Orcus 100. And from what Matt and Carrie say, it says after 3 times, Powerline just becomes an orca, and you ride it to the top.
Good
Hashtag
Lord.
top secret.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
It just becomes an orca?
Yeah.
Oh, I get it.
The
Because it's
whale.
orcas 100 and there's only one orca left. Fat Dog.
What about Fat Dog 120?
Fat Dog 120.
Race
Yes.
looks gnarly,
Yeah, that race is gnarly. Actually, it's Fat Dog 100,
but it's
120 miles. And I don't think they're going to change it. Hurt is on that list because
Hurt
we want to
also
go to
looks
Hawaii.
amazing.
Basically, any there's a lot of runs that I want to do that aren't sanctioned races. West Coast Trail.
Yeah. What's the round?
Yeah. Wonderland Trail. I hope
John
that doesn't
Muir.
become a race. I want that to stay what it is. John Muir Trail. Muir. The Volcanic 50 I really want to do, going around Mount St. Helens. Mount Hood. I want to go around Mount Hood.
There's just a lot of like adventure.
Yeah, a lot of adventure things we want
that
to do.
we want to do. Yeah, for sure.
Mount McKinley. I just want to do.
Barkley?
I'm sorry. I say McKinley? Is it McKinley?
I don't know what McKinley is.
Mount
Barclays?
Whitney. I want to say Mount Whitney, but I kept saying Mount McKinley, which is in Alaska and would kill me. Barclays is not on my list. I would love to go to Barclays, and I can't wait till next year, Jameel,
Yes.
to document his hopeful return to Barclays and decimation of the race. Then I can experience it and see what it's all about and gauge that from there. What else? We can move. I could be listing races all day.
Kimosabi asked, do you ever get post-race blues?
All the time.
I feel like we both have had that.
Yeah, all the time. It's transitioned now as I'm starting to use more races as training runs. The good thing I think I have going for me is that I'm able to document these races and kind of relive them as I edit the films together. That really helps me kind of prolong the race experience. And then when I get to share it, I spend a good couple of days just kind of watching comments and seeing what people think of the race and like, is it inspiring them to go run it, or, you know, that kind of engagement. So I get to live with the race longer than just the few hours that I'm in it.
Sure.
And I think that's really helpful. That's just a perk of kind of what we're doing here. And then I tend to never finish a race without already having another race.
I'm kind of in that weird spot right now.
You don't have a race on your calendar.
I do not have a race on my calendar, but you know.
We need to get one on you.
Run 20 miles on Saturday.
Yeah. Honestly, the goal, this is kind of where the Patreon is coming in, is the goal with the Patreon page is to get it to the point where we can fund trips so we can have races on the East Coast, in the Midwest, or adventures into national parks across the country or across the globe.
So many people tonight have just asked, like, are you guys coming to the East Coast? When are you coming to the East Coast? We will get there as soon as we can.
As soon as we can. Honestly,
we
it's
were there for
all
New York last year, but that was such a
so
quick
expensive
trip, and it was expensive.
You know, you got to, you know, those of you who live on the East Coast know what it's like to travel and pay to come over to the West Coast and vice versa. It's just, it's expensive. It's so nice to be able to have local races that we can just do around the Southern California hood. But we obviously want to go beyond that. Like, I want to make films of the East Coast races. I've had so many people reach out and say, hey, there's this race, you got to come run it. And I kind of have to stop replying because it's the same answer. I can't afford it. You know, like it's
expensive.
And it's not going to be something that I like next week I'll be able to afford going over there. It's just, it has to, you have to make this certain amount of money. And you guys know what it's like having a job and going paycheck to paycheck.
Jonathan Rosenthal, will you guys ever camp for a run?
I did Kuyamaka 100k. I camped before and after. It was fine.
I would rather not.
Yeah.
Just because I like to have a bed and I like to have a hot shower. I'm not princessy. I love camping. I love being outdoors.
That is why I love this woman. She's staying hotel room and bed and stuff like that. This girl can camp. This girl is outdoor, and I love it. One of the main reasons I really fell in love with you is when our first experiences was camping in Yosemite, and you just being like, whatever, let's make some food and coffee and get up into the mountains. It's like, oh, I really love this woman.
But for races, I feel like I like to have a little luxury of having a bed to sleep in, a pillow to put my head on, and, you know, climate control.
I'm okay with roughing it There are some races like this last one is a perfect example. Quicksilver, I think they do have camping options. I don't think I would have wanted to do it either, purely because I have all this film equipment. And if I'm bringing a lot of film equipment that I want to film the race with, or, just like cameras and lenses and stuff, I don't want to leave that in a car or leave it in a tent. The other thing is I was so nervous for the race that I really wanted to focus on getting a good night's sleep. And the first night camping, I never get a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
So is the second, third, and then as you go beyond that, the nights become more easier to fall asleep for me, because we don't have a super luxurious setup. We just kind of have one of those rugged backpacking setups where it's an inflatable mattress and that kind of stuff. There are races that, depending on where we end up living for a majority of our time, that like if it's in the Northwest or wherever, there are races that we can drive to with a car, and hopefully we'll have a car that can do this. You can pop up the back and put the bed in the back and have a nice comfortable sleeping situation in the back of a truck or back of a wagon or something like that. Adventure mobile. That's more tolerable for me.
Yeah, I agree.
But we love
like
camping.
My bath or shower after.
Yeah.
But I'm also not, I'd also be fine with the $49 a night hotel room.
Which is kind of what we slept in this weekend.
It's true. Get your questions in for last minute stuff here, because
we're gonna go
have
food.
And
then the beer's wearing off. We need to open up the next one.
A lot of people are still hanging out with us here.
Oh, I love it.
A lot of people are like enjoying it.
But honestly, this is welcome to what the Patreon live streams are for.
Yes.
We're gonna shut this one down here. Actually, let's just take one or two more questions. Let me know if anything else pops in. Otherwise, we'll go. The patreon.com/thegingerrunner. If you are at the $10 level or above per month, you get access to our once a month live stream. That is it's this. And we've only done one so far. I was going to do one last Thursday because it's going to be the first Thursday of every month. But the hotel we were in had no Wi-Fi. It was Wi-Fi accessible, but we couldn't even, it
didn't work.
No emails, like nothing worked.
Nothing.
And unfortunately, we couldn't do the live stream. So it'll be this Thursday. Those of you who are watching, the live stream will be this Thursday for you. And I'll post the time later this week.
CTime79, would you ever do a race spur of the moment?
All the time. Oh yeah.
You just kind of did.
Yeah.
Leona
was a week of decision, and that was because it was either me going out into the mountains and trying to get in a 30-mile training run on my own, or being able to go enjoy some of Kira's incredible race course marking and terrain and volunteership. She just puts on great races. So I could either have a sanctioned race that would allow me to just kind of focus on getting the distance in and gauging my fitness and heat, rather than going out and like just pushing myself and seeing if I could get the mileage in. I just wanted to kind of do it in the race scenario, and it was awesome to be able to do it last minute. I would do that, all the time, unless it's like hey, last minute 100-mile. You want to do it this weekend? I'm not at that level yet.
Right.
I feel like Andy and Peter did that this weekend in Yosemite. I feel like it was a last minute.
Like
but
aliens.
They are aliens. They're fucking next level.
Heidi's asking, Kim, do you use Tailwind or what? Yes, I do Tailwind, mostly Tailwind. I do aid station food for ultras just to kind of get the extra that I need. When I'm using Tailwind, I sometimes feel a little hungry in the stomach, but not depleted in calories. So usually, just mostly Tailwind. Let's see what else.
Kimasabi says, thoughts on moving GRL earlier? Unfortunately, not at this time. Ginger Runner Live has always been at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I don't think I'm going to move it earlier, because this tends to work for West Coast guests and even East Coast guests.
Yeah.
It's kind of that happy medium, because if I move 5 p.m. might be the earliest I could move it, but unfortunately not at this time. I've had problems getting people earlier that are West Coasters. So if I did a 5 p.m. show, sometimes they're like, I can join you at 6. And then sometimes I've had East Coasters say, I can't do 9 p.m., which is your time. They could do 8 p.m. So it will really depend on the guest. If there's some time that they can only do, I will make the exception, but it will always be. Or for traveling.
We've had to do that,
which we've had to do.
A couple times.
Yeah, a couple times. But I would say 90% of the time it's going to be 6 p.m. Pacific time. However, the live show that I will be doing for Patreons will always adjust by a couple of hours one way or the other. The time will always be posted the day before to compensate for global audience, East Coast audience, and basically making that as accessible as possible for people around the world, which is so hard to do. And I'm so sorry for those of you who might be in Europe, Central Europe, who just, are having to wake up at 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. to try to watch the show.
There's just never going to be a perfect time for everyone.
It's impossible.
So we got to do what we got to do. John Tanner says, I keep hearing camp, and I'm thinking Ethan and Kim should host a running camp. 3 days in LA Mountains? I'd pay for that.
Well, what you just brought up is something that we have already talked about and is already in the works. I don't want to say any more details because
that's all we should say.
That's all we will say. It is something that has been talked about for over a year and a half, I would say now. I think it was actually one of the very first ideas that we pitched to each other.
About this for a long time.
Because it's just something we've wanted to do. And it wouldn't be just us. It would be bringing in other professionals and elites and making it this really...
people of all levels.
Yeah, we're not talking small. The idea is much, much bigger than anything that's currently available. And that's kind of what we want to do. But we also want to make it worth the money and the time that we would be asking you guys to give up.
Yeah.
So we're talking like... don't even want to say.
Fun stuff.
Just, I guess, you guys already follow pretty much across all social networks and YouTube and stuff. So just keep your eyes open. We'll probably make an announcement later this year, hopefully, as we kind of get things kind of dialed in. There's other things I think we want to do first.
Yes.
That are really, really cool.
But a lot of really fun things on the horizon, for sure.
Yeah,
like
because
dinner.
This has to be like dinner. Because this has to be, this doesn't have to be anything. This is so much part of, this is like our life now. And it is so fun. And we talked about it even this weekend, like on the road trip. It's like, this is, how amazing is this that we get to do this and share it with all you guys. And it's not just Kim and I, it's a community. And we really noticed that this weekend at Quicksilver. It's just how many people
love it.
Yeah, we love it.
We love it.
So get amped. It's going to be a slow process for a while. Things are making a transition slowly into the new and the bigger and the better. You guys are all pretty much the pioneers with us. You get to watch the entire growth happen, and I'm hoping it's really cool for you guys to be a part of. You guys get to
be a part of the growth. Yeah.
That's kind of what's cool about this whole thing.
Yeah.
You got to watch it kind of grow from zero to 1,000. And this white wall is going to change.
Hopefully, maybe even by next.
Yeah, hopefully maybe by the next review that I drop.
Next video.
Next video, hopefully. If not, then definitely the video after. That was the major step, and this wall will no longer be white. This blank slate that I've talked about is now
just going to be a mural of my face.
It's going to be Kim's face, and my head will be in the mouth.
That sounds terrible. Let's not do that.
Well, I apparently got to go back to the drawing board then. Thank you guys for watching live. You're fantastic, and I hope you appreciated and enjoyed the recap. Very excited to be able to have this in my grasp, earned, and to all of you who finished the Quicksilver 100k, I bow down to you. It doesn't matter if you finished faster or slower, you got it done, and it was not easy, and I can imagine you pushed yourself harder than you ever thought you could to get it done, and you did it. So congratulations to all of you who earned your buckles out there, 50k and 100k. Tough course.
Thank you to everybody that stuck around.
Yeah.
And we know it's late.
Yeah.
But the mass majority of you have stuck around.
Yeah, it's really it's great. I know it's super late on the East Coast, and in Europe, I can't even imagine. It's probably like 8 a.m. Ugh. Enjoy your Chemex pour over. For those of you on the West Coast, it's almost time for Game of Thrones reruns. Can't even believe it before you go to bed. You really, every single week, I'm always inspired by how many people show up and watch out the live show, and the ones I have to block too. You guys are fantastic. See you guys next week, next Monday, 6 p.m. PDT, not PST.
Oh.
It's Pacific Daylight Time.
Yeah, whatever.
I got corrected on that multiple times today because my brain is mush.
I think I posted PST too.
It's fine. All right, guys. Get some sleep, get some coffee, get some chocolate ice cream. You'll see what I'm talking about when I post the film.
Bye.
Bye.